Here is the story of Sukaru Sumeragi, a high school senior whose only hobby is cooking. When classmates praised his food, he felt lonely and found solace only in friends on the internet. One day, the most popular girl in school, Ikenos, suddenly noticed his talent. She confessed that she was too clumsy to help, but was happy just watching him work. Look, as soon as their teacher left the room, Sukaru suddenly felt a chilling premonition. At that moment, the world melted into chaos and a blinding glow. The unknown phenomenon enveloped the entire school building. Sukaru and his classmates found themselves in the middle of a giant stone hall. The only thing left for him was to guess, was this really the legendary call to another world? Before they could understand what had happened, a ring of armored soldiers closed around them. From a high balcony, nobles and kings looked at them as if they were mere cattle. A man stepped forward and his voice thundered through the hall, "You are heroes summoned to this world by our ritual." When panic spread, the knight sternly said that their status would now be checked. Their mission is to fight demon kings, but who gets which task will be decided by an auction between kingdoms with crazy stakes. One by one, the students stepped forward and, with trembling fingers, touched the strange status plaque. The first to step forward was Ichinos. She announced her profession, Holy Maiden, rank S, and the bids instantly soared to tens of millions. And now it was Sukaru Sumeraga's turn. They began to evaluate him. The great hall fell silent when his status flashed before everyone. Cook, rank G. The enraged ones burst out with a scornful cry, "Good for nothing," they shouted. "Hurry up and move on to the next." The nobleman exploded with indignation. How could they call such a worthless hero precisely when the world was in danger? Sukaru froze, stunned. What could he have done to deserve such humiliation? The old man told him that he would not be sent back. Instead, he handed him a pitiful sword and a few coins and led him to the gates. He sharply said that none of the kingdoms wanted to accept a cook. Every nose was drawn to him like a magnet, but the guards firmly restrained her. Sukaru forced a smile and promised that maybe someday they would meet again. Through tears, she begged him to promise that they would see each other again. "Of course," he said, turning away and heading toward that ominous portal. "See you then." As soon as he stepped through the gate, a hand pushed him from behind with all its might. He saw the old man's face twist into a cruel smile. At that moment, he realized he had been betrayed. Sukaru did not fall into the city, fell right into the heart of a dark and ominous forest. He got up. The shock inside him exploded and turned into pure rage. He was deceived and mercilessly thrown into the midst of a treacherous forest of bullets. That old bastard, he thought, when a status plaque appeared before him confirming his pathetic first-level work. In battle, his skills proved completely useless, and his stats were terribly low. But survival was the priority. He used the skill of careful inspection and desperately rummaged in search of anything edible. He managed to find some berries and mushrooms and, using his unique skill, skillfully hid them for later. Just as a tiny spark of hope flashed in his heart, he immediately found himself in an ambush of a giant rat. Paralyzing fear gripped him. They knew he couldn't fight and threw him here to die. Fear in him flared into a burning desire for revenge, and he swore, "I will survive in this forest and make them all pay." Suddenly, a new shadow loomed over him, and it turned out to be not just a beast. A giant saber-toothed beast was staring intently at him, and its claws were like sharpened daggers. Sukaru had nothing left but to scream as the predator pounced. The sword disappeared, and suddenly his only weapon became the mushrooms from his inventory. The beast swatted him away as if brushing off an insect and threw him to the ground. He fell with a crash. As his life began to fade, one question surfaced in his mind: is this really the end? The thought of his revenge, of the justice he had to restore, did not let him give up. In a last desperate surge, he unleashed his only offensive skill, Ignite. He shouted and threw the last drop of his will into the fight. Suddenly, magical tongues of flame entwined the creature, and it roared in pain. It frantically struggled, trying to crush it to extinguish the flames. Pinned under the beast, Sukaru grabbed the only other skill that came to mind: dismantle. With a flash of dark energy, the monster instantly crumbled into a pile of bones and materials. Suddenly, one message flickered before his eyes: "You leveled up." Another one, and another one, and another one, until the messages flooded his senses. He didn't just level up once, he instantly jumped dozens of levels at once. Covered in blood, he froze, staring at the impossible result. Pain from his wounds tore him from within, and he collapsed. He was still breathing, but barely holding on. As consciousness slowly slipped away, a memory flashed in his mind about the new skill he had just mastered: water gun. Suddenly, a small sphere of pure water appeared. Droplets fell into his mouth and saved him from thirst. One more skill worked: healing food. From the monster's remains arose a steak, as if promising to patch his wounds. Having no other choice, he lunged and began devouring the magical meat. He ate greedily, as if each piece decided whether he would survive. Incredible strength surged through his battered body like a lightning strike. Severe wounds on him slowly began to heal and disappear. In a matter of moments, he suddenly fully recovered. He looked at his hands, touched his body, and could not believe it, he had truly healed. Now, having received a new chance at life, he gazed into the dark forest, determination hardened within him. He checked his status again. His name was Sukaru Sumeragi, but he was no longer a first-level cook. Now he had level 123 and a bunch of new powerful skills. The bony creature released its prey because it mistook the human for a monster. The hero realized against the 200th level Sword Reaper, he had no chance at all. He had to become stronger. Before setting off again in pursuit of revenge, he first needed to eat. Having just eaten, he suddenly felt a strange new wave begin to envelop him. Suddenly it dawned on him, each eaten part of the monster granted completely different abilities. The stronger the creature he devoured, the more power flowed into him. Armed with new knowledge, he set out hunting, burning with determination to become strong enough to destroy his enemies. But at the very moment he was preparing food, a pack of wolves suddenly attacked him. He unleashed a torrent of water, realizing that against their numbers it was futile. Suddenly from the shadows, a much greater threat unexpectedly lunged. Suddenly a monstrous hell bear rose before him. Level 210 beast looked at him with pure malice. The creature exploded with a deafening howl. The hero jumped back at the very moment the huge jaws of the beast snapped shut. The beast's attack was of such insane force that it threw him backward. He instantly launched a counterattack, trying to immobilize it with the shadowy bonds of tree magic. The spells proved useless under the colossal strength of the bear, they instantly broke. With the giant rag he swept downward, slicing through the air. The beast's teeth found their target and sank deeply into his shoulder. Burning pain made him grit his teeth as the creature easily lifted him. The bear's claws dug into his torso and pinned him like an insect. Rage overwhelmed his mind, and the burning desire for revenge consumed him from within. When the monster loomed over him, he stubbornly refused to let his story end there. He decided to go all in, to make the last desperate final gambit. He unleashed his most powerful ability, and darkness swallowed the entire world. When he woke up, he was overwhelmed by a sudden sensation he had absorbed the power of that creature. Step by step, he extracted all the useful from the bear, absorbing new skills and strength from its remains. The journey led him further, and he found himself face to face with another deadly predator. Again, he found himself in a dead end and desperately asked himself, is his fate really to be a close combat fighter? But at that very moment, he realized the main thing. From that hellish bear, he inherited dark magic, the perfect weapon for his revenge. The celebration was abruptly interrupted. A strange message appeared on the screen from the system. He was given the title Pervert. The description under the title mocked him because he was naked. He looked down and a look of distrust froze on his face. Now the absurd title was forever stuck to his status. 30 days passed in the merciless forest, and he still asked himself, had he really become stronger? The loneliness of the wild wilderness began to weigh on him. He was completely alone. He dreamed of only one thing: to find an ally on this desolate land. Suddenly his senses sharpened. He recognized that familiar, eerie presence he had already encountered. The Reaper rushed to teleport away, but he instantly entangled him with shadowy chains. The main hero, mocking, teased the creature and locked it in a cage made of magical wood. The god, activating the skill Existence Detection, pinpointed the Reaper teleporting right behind his back, preparing for a sudden attack. He ignited his ignition spell, a continuous blazing flame that would become a real problem if the enemy kept fleeing. That explosion suddenly threw the Reaper high into the air. But the monster did not retreat, suddenly appearing behind his back. It was ready to deliver the final blow. At the very last moment, he sharply activated disassembly mode. The Reaper's robe scattered and, as if alive, transformed into a powerful new cloak for the hero. The Hermit's cloak granted invisibility and a shield against any magic, another victory in the pocket. Suddenly a blinding force struck him and he fell. He froze, stunned. The attack had broken through his new magical shields. The explosion threw him back. The skeletal warrior finally threw off his cloak, stood before him, and asked in a cold voice, "Are you a warrior?" The main character reviews his long list of skills. Each item seems to shout about his rapid growth. He fiercely bites into a piece of raw metal ore. Using his crafting ability, he finished forging a powerful new sword and stunned his companion. Suddenly the blade, black as pitch, spoke directly in his head. It asks if he is a true warrior and promises to give him its power if he proves he really can. Suddenly the thinking weapon asks a strange question: do you believe in God? The hero brushed off the idea and explained that in just a month his faith was shattered completely. He was summoned to this world without any choice. Instead, he was only despised and cast out. He recalls those endless hungry nights and the relentless struggle for survival against cruel, deadly beasts. He screams, full of despair, demanding an answer. Why does God allow people to endure such a cruel fate? This God sees it and with an indifferent smile simply ignores the arrogance of his servants and the decay of humanity. Burning with hellish fury, he declares, "I will smash the face of that God." Sword calmly replies it has no intention of stopping him. They say the form of his vengeful soul seems cast according to her power. Calls itself Kurakiri, the sword of death, and says to him, "Just imagine your desire." The main hero asks about the nearest towns, but Kurakiri brings grim news. They stand right in the very heart of the dangerous forest of skulls. Suddenly, the sword realizes that it deliberately came to this dangerous place to challenge the king of the forest. Before his eyes emerges a colossal beast, the Imperial Dragon of level 300. The hero froze the power of this creature far exceeds anything he has ever encountered. The dragon instantly unleashes the Imperial Breath, a stream of destructive energy. The blast strike was so powerful that he immediately lost consciousness. The spirit of the girl he saved desperately calls him, trying to find out if he is still alive. She screams his name. The voice bursts from her chest as the giant jaws of the dragon close, ready to kill. But at the last moment, the hero disappears and the beast bites only air. He activated his dark magic and instantly teleported away from inevitable death. Hiding in the very shadow of the dragon, he whispers to his companion, "It's time to counterattack." He swallows a recovery item and his energy instantly explodes upward. He retreats, increasing the distance between them, and the dragon again breathes a devastating breath. Horror gripped his spirit. He knew that no one had ever returned alive after meeting this monster. She warns the beast will hunt him, and meanwhile he summons an iron wall to hold back its assault. With one breath of the Emperor Dragon, the magical barrier is easily shattered. He is trapped and feels it to the bone. Escape is impossible, and getting close enough to attack is also impossible. He devises a new plan: use remove presence, quietly sneak up on unseen, and then dismantle him. He activates the skill with one move and disappears, leaving the huge dragon momentarily confused. The beast rushes in all directions, twitching, unable to find its invisible enemy. The hero silently lands on the dragon's back, takes aim about to deliver the final blow. But suddenly the dragon's eye opens. It sensed his presence, though he tried to remain unnoticed. Fiercely throws him off its back. He crashes to the ground with a roar. He builds another wall, stunned by how this creature managed to find him. The spirit, with bitterness in his voice, explains. His overwhelming murderous intent revealed his location. This revelation ignited a radical, almost insane idea in the hero's mind. He realizes there is only one chance. He must use fabricate to turn his murderous intent into love. He approaches and gently places his hand on the huge beast. With one last decisive cry, he is about to release his transformed power. He activates dismantle, and the dragon emperor falls instantly. Deep in the forest, he stumbles upon a strange machine filled with spheres, and wonders, could this be a trap? Not noticing an immediate threat, he decides to take a risk, hoping to come across some truly powerful item. Suddenly, a black capsule appears before him, and as soon as he touches it, a message pops up. He has acquired the skill equivalent exchange. The companion asks distrustfully, is one skill a meager reward? And he quietly explains, this is not a simple skill, it is unique, much rarer than ordinary abilities. The sword persistently pushes him to improve his skills, and he agrees their chance to become stronger lies only in relying on each other. He easily cuts through the monster and quietly thanks his thinking blade for the invaluable training. Fight victory, fight again, this becomes his second self. Step by step in this relentless forging, he discovers new passive defenses that repel both physical and magical attacks. His status reveals a formidable arsenal of abilities, newly acquired resistances, and the mysterious equivalent exchange. His companion insists. Still in the forest, he shed his rags and changed into normal clothes. From the skins of fallen beasts, he sews himself new, formidable armor. Now in the skin of a hell bear and a tall fur coat, he is fully ready for the road that lies ahead. He stands ready and wonders who will be his first encounter in this unfamiliar world. Suddenly, from beneath the cliff where he stands, a commotion rises. He is calm because he is confident. Survival skills hardened in battles with mighty beasts will carry him through any trial. In the distance, a group of travelers is overwhelmed. Their defensive formation collapses. He recognizes the attackers as ordinary bandits and calmly, with casual confidence, assesses the situation with his sword. As he descends, passive resistance skills activate on their own, preparing him for the clash. The woman in the carriage, surrounded, notices him approaching and desperately calls for help. One of the bandits, naively convinced that her cries are meant for him, does not even suspect the real threat. The thieves rejoiced prematurely, greed blinded them, and they did not notice their impending doom. In an instant, he was already among them, his blade flashed and the bandit fell, not even managing to react. The man collapses, his mind freezes, unable to comprehend the attacker's impossible speed. Inside the carriage, the noble lady is fiercely shielded from the brutal spectacle unfolding outside. The main character stands ready, his icy gaze fixed on the remaining bandits like a blade waiting for movement. The fight ended instantly, only silence and the bodies of the dead remained. His companion's sword broke the silence and whispered, "What is it like to take a human life?" He looks at his hands and gets lost in thought. The main character was tormented by one simple fact: it was too easy. One of the surviving guards cautiously approaches and insistently demands that he identify himself. He silently turned away, as if about to leave this scene behind. The guards stand helplessly and watch as their mysterious savior walks away. They can only guess who the man was who dealt with the bandits with terrifying efficiency. Finally, he reaches the town of Allegria, a lively, noisy settlement on the very edge of civilization. He pushes through the crowded streets, a sharp contrast to the desert forest. A wave of relief washes over him. Now the life of an ordinary person can finally begin. His status screen flashed and revealed a new beginning, an unexpected class: cook. Beastman, laughing, retells how the hero suddenly appeared. The hero splurged on lunch, laid out a considerable sum, and smiling, remarked that the local food looked much tastier than their weapons. He walks through the market with such confidence as if no blade in the world could surpass the one he carries. The group of beastmen was shocked when they learned that he was familiar with rice and pasta. He was directed to Settle General Store, a huge shop where he might find exactly what he was looking for. At the threshold, he is greeted by a cheerful catgirl who immediately, unable to contain her joy, exclaims, "Yes, we sell rice." She jokingly asks if he is in love, and he just waved it off. "No, I'm just not used to conversations." Another employee points to the collar on her neck and the truth comes out: she is a slave. The main hero froze at this revelation, while the slave tirelessly showed him different varieties of rice. He recognized a familiar variety of rice, probably from his world, and immediately bought 10 sacks for 60,000 gold. The shop owner said he would come to him personally to thank him for this huge order. With a simple gesture, the main character sent 10 sacks of rice into his spacious inventory box, and everyone around froze in amazement. Impressed, Settle asks if he wants anything else from what the shop offers, from food to slaves. Just the mention of slaves throws the main character off track. He freezes and sinks into deep thought. At first he hesitated, but the owner gently persuaded him to at least take a look. He learns that in this world slaves have legal rights and protection, and most often work as maids. But the owner insists, says there is something else he needs to see, and leads him to a closed section. Behind bars are criminal slaves. Their rights were taken away and they are thrown into dangerous, often deadly work. While working, Settle fixed his gaze on a girl hunched in the back row. He quietly and decisively explained how she was framed. The sorceress was accused of killing a nobleman's child simply because she was near the crime scene. She torments herself, wondering if she is really guilty, and the owner sincerely admits that he does not know and believes she was just unlucky. When Will spoke, it became clear he had known this girl since birth. She is the daughter of his close friend. Her story about how she was unjustly accused pierced him to the bone. It resonated with his own tragic past. The owner begs him, buy the girl named Hannah, and the main character stands hesitating. Settle becomes desperate and warns, if she is not bought immediately, she will definitely be executed. Their conversation is interrupted by a brazen nobleman. He bursts in and loudly declares that he will buy Kana. The nobleman Dakim stepped opposite the main character, scrutinized him with a sharp gaze, and coldly remarked about the possible profit the slave mage. Rushing off the man's provocations, the hero turned and, as if nothing had happened, made an incredible offer: 100 million gold for the girl. The astronomical sum suddenly left both the owner and the nobleman completely speechless. Dakim fiercely protests, but Settle calmly says that another buyer has already made a deal. The main character grabbed the enraged nobleman. Cold fury burned in his eyes, and he sternly warned him to step back. Guards rushed to help. Dakim retreated, hissing a final threat, and the hero stood thinking whether it was worth intervening. He looks at the saved girl and swears again to destroy everyone who dares to stand in his way. Settle watched with a quiet sense of victory. He felt that he had trusted exactly the right person. The main character, with a trembling voice, assures the owner that he himself will repay the kindness shown to him. Settle quietly praised his old friend, confident that the man known as Kurakiri, the Sword of Death, would protect his daughter. He and the girl stepped into the darkness. A new and dangerous path opened before them. In chains, the girl silently sits in the doorway, and outside the rain begins to fall. The main character Sukuru stands by the window and does not take his eyes off the furious downpour outside the glass. There is almost no money left, and he feels the cold blow of truth. The plans to leave the city will now have to be changed. He fixed his gaze on the rescued girl and decided not to disturb her. Let her rest until she recovers and can speak. Later, he begins to prepare food. While he was cooking, he saw the girl in the doorway. She quietly stood and looked at him. He offers the healing dish and gently says, "Eat as much as you want." He hesitated and shyly took the first bite. Horror gripped him. She ate on the floor like a wild animal. He immediately orders her to sit at the table and insists, "Eat properly, using a fork and spoon." The girl obediently walks to the chair. Sakura does not take her eyes off her, captivated and surprised by how she eats so elegantly and delicately. He silently watches to see if she is all right. He hopes that this healing dish will cure not only her physical wounds, but also the wounds that hurt in her mind. While she eats, tears slowly begin to roll down her face. She completely broke down and sobbing, shouted the name Delsama in her grief. Sakura immediately feels the healing food worked and broke through her trauma. He recalls a brief glimpse of her former happiness and cannot comprehend what horrors she had to endure to become so broken. The faces of the corrupt nobles flash in his mind, and he curses each one of them. Cold determination freezes on his face. The intelligent sword calls. He grabs it, feeling that the threat is already approaching. Through the window, he senses 5 attackers approaching, their presence clumsy and immediately noticeable. Outside in the dark alley, the killers are being taken down one by one. The last attacker is cornered by a huge, terrifying bear. The monster transforms back into Sukuru, and he fiercely looks at the frightened man. He rushes dazzlingly fast and, as if it were nothing, easily disarms the opponent. Sukuru pressed the blade to the man's throat and threateningly demanded, "Who sent you?" The killer weakly tries to fight back. Sukuru's eyes glow with incredible power. He presses the man, tears answers out of him, and loudly asks why they are still pursuing him if they have already abandoned him. The killer reveals his true target, the red-haired slave walking behind him. He admits they knew nothing about Sukuru, they were simply offered good money for this job. Sukuru instantly stops the interrogation. He immediately understood everything. Suddenly, a click goes off in his head. He can already guess who is behind this attack. They got themselves into a truly dangerous situation. It turned into a real troublesome complication. He returns to the room and suddenly sees the girl has woken up and is looking straight at him. When the sun rises, she sits up in bed, and thus is born the dawn of his coming revenge. The system confirms the main character's intuition skill has been replaced with a new ability, Clean. He looked closely at his new clothes and thought that they would be just perfect for Hannah, who had long been unable to wash properly. Watching the sleeping elf girl, he sighed with relief. Her nightmares had finally disappeared. He decides to cook something for her himself, although he has no idea what she would like. In the memory, a young girl is whispered to that her father, a great mage, has died, but she is warmly welcomed into a new family. Ken's child sincerely and from the bottom of their heart thanks the woman Dalchasami. Elf smiles, his eyes shining, and says that he is very happy to work for such kind people. The memory darkens and she wonders in horror, how could everything have gone so wrong? The idyllic scene shatters into pieces, only chaos and ruins remain. Just a moment ago, Dolce was carefully inspecting the estate grounds. Then the agitated servant shouted about trouble. The Count's son was attacked. She found the young Lord Dolce herself. He was bleeding on the stone path. She rushed to him and seeing that he was still breathing, pleaded, "Hold on." These wounds proved stronger than her healing magic. She couldn't even stop the bleeding. She pressed him to herself and with her last strength whispered, "Don't die." Another nobleman appeared on the scene. He froze, his eyes wide with horror at what he saw. He demanded to know abruptly what had happened. And suddenly the guards appeared. They threw accusations at Kana. She killed the young lord for money. The accuser loudly emphasized that no one saw or confirmed her story about the cleaning. And he pulled out that letter supposedly from Hannah, which cunningly lured the victim into a trap. Kana burst out screaming, "It wasn't me, I would never do such a thing." Now behind bars, the guard brings Hannah a bowl of thin porridge and orders her to eat. He looks at that disgusting goo, barely recognizing it as food. Another prisoner boldly throws out, "I'll take that food if she refuses." The prisoner warns her, "If you don't eat, you will die. Soon everyone will be sold to the mines." The elf girl, who has now become a slave herself, cannot understand what did she do to deserve this fate. She sinks into despair, convinced none of this would have happened if Dolce-sama were alive. While she was wondering what to do, suddenly a voice was heard. "I will buy her." A hand reaches out as if offering to escape her torment. Now the fate of the main heroine is in the hands of a new master. He calmly said to her, "Sit at the table and eat properly." She froze, looking at the food. She cannot remember the last time she ate something so real. Fear of disobeying the new master gripped her, so she was forced to obey. She hesitantly raises the fork to her mouth and slowly begins to eat the dish placed before her. The main character, confident in his culinary skills, asks her to speak her mind directly. She froze in silence for a moment. Her hand trembles. A memory rises again from the depths of the past. In the last moments of life, Daltasama whispered to her that now everything is fine. He begged her with all his might not to cry. Returning to the present, a single tear slowly rolls down the elf's cheek. The main character anxiously feels as if the money is melting away, and he barely has enough to pay for their housing. Later, he finds her in bed not sleeping and offers her something to eat. She immediately sits up ready for another portion. He is shocked by her appetite. He has already cooked 6 full cauldrons of food. Still, he rejoices when he sees that she has become healthier and livelier. When someone asks if it tastes good, her face instantly lights up with a joyful, radiant smile. The hero sighs and thinks that his heart is too soft and it only harms him. Out of nowhere, without warning, the girl suddenly collapsed in her chair. For a moment he freezes in panic, but immediately understands she just dozed off in the middle of a bite. He could only watch her strange behavior completely confused him. The main hero proudly serves the luxurious meal he prepared with his own hands. Anna happily eats breakfast, watching with admiration as he cooks so skillfully. This time she praises his culinary skills with enthusiasm, and he blushes and shyly accepts the compliment. Overflowing with joy, she feels as if all past troubles never happened and accidentally spills food on herself. She stubbornly insists, "I will wash my clothes myself," and he gently tells her, "Don't worry." With a single light movement, he activates his skill and her clothes instantly shine with cleanliness. Stains disappear as if they never existed, and he smiles and hands her a new set of clothes, made by his own hand. She asks where such clothing comes from, and he only says, "Dress up," quietly thinking about Japan. She has never heard of Japan, and before her eyes appears the image of a hero called to fight the demon kings. He solemnly announces his name, Tsurugi Sumeragi. She calls herself Kana and with a passionate voice swears to be completely faithful to her new master. Tsurugi asks to be shown the city, and she gladly agrees. Kana happily points to shops and landmarks as they walk along the lively streets. She continues the tour, showing the best places to eat, rest, and immerse in reading. He sincerely admits that he uses the skill of disguise and honestly says, "Pockets are empty," so now he is pondering what business to start. He suggests, "I will become a cook." The conversation suddenly breaks off. 2 figures stop before them and block the way. He instantly recognizes them, the same men who followed him from the tavern. The feeling of Kana is by no means hostile, it rather whispers, they better look for another way to the destination. He says that when she was imprisoned, she briefly met the shop owner Settles. The shop clerk notices them on the opposite side of the street and loudly calls the owner. Filled with gratitude for their help, Kina sincerely offers to do everything in her power for them. The shop owner calms down and with sadness in his voice explains why opening a new restaurant is so difficult. Strict rules and fierce competition make it almost impossible. Tsurugi sharply interrupts him and insists that Settle try his food before rejecting the idea. He takes out several onigiri, each contains powerful magic that temporarily boosts stats. He confidently says that this food will become a real hit among soldiers and adventurers and offers to form a partnership. Settles, still thinking over this possibility, confirms Tsurugi's name. Suddenly, 2 armed men approach them. They recognized Tsurugi from a previous meeting. They called themselves vassals of Count Aba's and asked Tsurugi to come with them. He turns to Kana and offers her a choice to go with him or stay, even if it might awaken painful memories. She agrees to go in a firm voice, and they are escorted to the magnificent estate. Inside, the maid looks at Kana with pure hatred and accuses her of murder. Tsurugi calmly takes Kana's hand and silently supports her. They are led to the living room, where a nobleman and a young woman are waiting for them. The man introduces himself as Count Dingaro Abas, and standing beside him is his daughter Altalias. The Count thanks Tsurugi from the bottom of his heart because he saved his daughter from bandits who attacked her carriage. Altales smiled and confirmed, "Yes, it is him. I sent my father's men to find him and promised a reward." The Count offers a staggering 10 million gold coins and also the family sword. Stunned by the generosity, Tsurugi learns with surprise that along with the reward comes a request for a favor. The Count's gaze darkens. He asks Tsurugi to confirm whether Kana really killed his son Dolce. He sincerely says he never believed she was guilty, he always suspected she was framed. He used his influence to commute her death sentence to slavery and handed her over to a friend for her own safety. Kana froze in shock when she learned the truth behind her sentence. Count declares, in this room everyone believes she is innocent. Then he, full of determination, asks Tsurugi to find the real killer of his son. Suffocating silence fell as the Count and Tsurugi stared intently at each other. The guild master, Mr. Sumeragi, smiling, gladly explains that he has completed all preparations for the sale of their new product. He slides over an attractive contract, 10,000 gold per month, and says that food that raises status is incredibly rare. The protagonist says directly, I no longer need money. Instead, he hands the man a decorated short sword. Sumeragi falls to his knees and begs him to find the one who killed his son. The main character, cold and unyielding, confirms the essence of the request. The deal was made, they immediately gave 50,000 gold, and Kanny's freedom will be safe once the real culprit is found. Lt. Lias is simply ecstatic with joy. Hannah will be able to work with her again. She sighs and says how much she missed those days when they were together. Feeling her loneliness, she listens as the main character solemnly accepts the dangerous mission. Sumeragi, hearing from Commander Rotten about his skill, fervently assures him of his loyalty. To himself, the main character mockingly smiles at the man's naivety and pretends to participate in this farce. Later they begin to discuss the smoldering danger. He understands if he stays, he will gain convenient access to the estate, and this is exactly what the fallen comrade passionately desired. Sumeragi earnestly asks him to save Kana, and he agrees. The guildmaster noted that it seems he has started to like saving people, and the hero immediately denied it. He knows there are still people who believe in Kana's innocence. He clenched his will into a fist and decided to break through to the truth about what happened. After that, she decisively prepares to leave her here in this city. Arriving at the magnificent estate, they were chilled, horrified to learn that Sumeragi is married, and right now he is with the princess. The servant, shining with admiration, describes his ideal family, his beautiful wife and intelligent son. As they walked down the corridor, the blonde man noticed them and simply froze in shock. Recognizing the main character, the man angrily demands, "What are you doing here?" He declares with a condescending smile that this mansion is not a place for commoners like them. The man lunged forward, consumed by blind rage. But he is met with a single brutal blow, and he flies away. Coughing up blood, the man froze in shock. The attack had no effect at all. He roars that he has surpassed 300 levels and cannot be wounded, ordering the guards to seize the intruder. The guards sharply draw their weapons and accuse the hero of attacking the archmage. Alti stood between them, stepping back a few paces, and tensely tried to defuse the situation. Suddenly, an authoritative voice sharply cut through the tension. Commander Rotten, burning with rage, sharply demands to know why his men have drawn blades on the honored guest. Wounded Mage Dokkum groans and whines that the main hero broke his bones. Dokkum weaves a pitiful tale. Allegedly, he was only trying to protect Lord Sumeragi from an attack. He insists that he bravely met the main hero's blow with his fist. Rotten mockingly laughs at this silly lie. He knows that the real blow from Sumeragi would have completely shattered his hand. He recounts how he witnessed the terrible power of the main hero. One move was enough to instantly destroy the entire bandit squad. The commander coldly warned Dokkum, everyone who dared to challenge this man met a grim fate. Rotten calmly brushed off the subordinate's nonsense and ordered him to be taken to the medical station. One of the other guards mumbles that he is ashamed to serve alongside such a man. Unbearable stress suddenly caused Kana to faint. The main heroine suggested taking her to a room, let her rest a bit. Commander Rotten apologizes profusely for what happened, while Sumeragi sternly reproaches him for apologizing to a slave. The main hero notices the commander's sincerity, while Rotten meanwhile vows to restore his honor. Rotten says he came to discuss the incident, and the main character sincerely promises to fully cooperate. They begin to investigate the murder of the Count's son. The maid nervously steps through the empty corridor. A young woman named Hannah looks back, her eyes full of shock. Angry, the main character reviews the laughably incomplete report, and his blood boils with indignation. He is sure this is complete nonsense, simply the result of either incompetence or corruption. He feels it to his bones, a conspiracy arranged by a very influential person. He turns over all the motives in his head and comes to the conclusion, someone is aiming for the status or wealth of the Abbas family. One question remains that gnaws at everyone: why exactly Kana, just a student, became the scapegoat? He dreams of an ability that with one move would expose the guilty and put an end to this farce. From the other wing, the frightened maid rushed to the princess and whispered anxiously that Kana refuses to eat. In a flashback, the guard, with a flash in his eyes, accuses Kana of the crime. Kana confesses to the master her guilt. She is sure that her weakness caused the boy's death. Her companion, with a broken voice, hoarsely explains that if Kana had better mastered magic, she could have saved him. He takes her hand and a firm expression freezes on his face. He asks her one single question that could change her life: do you want to become strong? Through tears she swears she wants power above all else. He instantly lays out a luxurious banquet of magical food and orders her to eat everything to become stronger. While she ate, a shock pierced her chest. Suddenly, she mastered wind magic. He notes with surprise, despite the colossal magical energy she absorbed, she gained only 2 skills. He decisively declares her training and investigation will go hand in hand. From his outstretched hand, a whirlwind of dark energy swirls. He began quietly whispering a spell to summon a powerful spirit. From the shadow emerges a formidable Lick hunter, and his incredible power is immediately visible. The summoning sucks a significant portion of magic out of him. Lick kneels down and asks, "Name the name to conclude your contract." The main hero solemnly names his new base of servants. The magical power of this creature was bursting at the seams, incredibly huge, and its master has a task for it. The intelligent undead servant definitely knows what his master desires. Base disappears into the shadow and instantly rushes to search. After the summoning, exhausted to the bone, the main hero simply collapses powerless. The princess enters the room and immediately feels a threatening presence here. She smiled kindly and gently asked, "Call me Ali." Ali, with anxiety in her voice, explains that she came to invite them for tea because she learned about Kana's condition. When she surprisingly finds out that Kana has already eaten, the main hero meanwhile admiringly gazes at the garden. "Garden is enchanted here as eternal spring," says Ali. Kana hesitates to join, but the princess insists sit down. Ali warmly recalls how he drank tea here together with Dolce and Kana. Everyone reaches for cups and begins to help themselves to tea. The main character slowly raises the cup to his lips, feeling its pleasant warmth. He praises the delicious tea with admiration, then quietly whispers it would be perfect if not for the poison. His sharp gaze did not fail, on the rim of his cup deadly poison. He directly approaches Ali and decisively asks, who is behind the attempt on his life. She confesses the official report is worthless, it lacked the most important testimonies. Ali blurted out, a moment before he was killed, she heard Dolce talking with some man. She exploded with rage. The knights refused to record her testimony, saying nothing could be heard through the door. He saw through her lie because he knew her keen ears would have heard everything perfectly. His piercing gaze measures every one of her movements. The servants watch the confrontation tensely. They do not know what will happen next. Only his call and the base of the lick instantly emerges from the shadows. He sharply gives a new order: investigate the personal maid of Princess Ala. The group feverishly tries to reconstruct the course of events, recalling that Dingaro has already left with his subordinates. The attack has not even started yet. Dolce was noticed talking to someone in armor, and later they ambushed Kana when she tried to reach him. Now Kana is screaming in frustration. She is consumed by a feeling of her own weakness. An hour earlier, she received from the protagonist a custom-made set of powerful high-tech equipment to protect her. He reminded her of that promise to do whatever it takes to become stronger. The place of their training was supposed to be the infamous, extremely dangerous Galfa forest itself. Without saying a word, he picked her up in his arms and rushed to their destination. They found themselves in the dangerous forest, and Kana is still confused after the sudden, rapid transfer. She stands powerless. Every strike of hers flies into emptiness and does not touch any forest creature. A giant beast loomed over her and she froze in horror, feeling completely helpless. In a cold voice, he tells her that this level 200 creature is just a field mouse and asks if she is really ready to gain power. That's it, the first test is over. The shot pulls back. The main hero stands opposite a powerful enemy, and the wounded Dolce La lies on the ground. The girl was seriously wounded, and the spark of her life was slowly fading. Kana could only helplessly watch in horror as the tragedy unfolded right before her eyes. He unleashed a devastating barrage of fiery spears. The spell hit precisely, and the target was completely wiped out. Suddenly, a flood of level-up notifications crashes down on Kana. She can't believe her eyes. She defeated such a powerful monster, and the main hero sincerely admits he left the monster with only 1 health point. He tells her this was only a trial, their real training is just beginning. As if with a single press of Q, he summons healing items, anticipating the damage she is about to take. Her face turns into a real horror. A scream broke free from the effort, echoing through the forest. Later, he carried the unconscious Kana through the city streets, noticing her exhaustion after a whole day of running around and occasionally checking if she felt even a little better. Suddenly, the man called him. Captain of the guard anxiously asks about Kana's condition, and I calmly explain she is just sleeping after exhausting training in the nearby dungeon. Captain smiled, warmly feeling that she is working hard to overcome her past weakness. He does not back down, insists on treating the main character to lunch at his favorite establishment. The main character nodded in response, and the captain warned him, beware of the vagrants from the slums. They enjoy the meal together in the local tavern. Captain loudly boasts about how much alcohol he can endure. His showy bravery is falling apart. He breaks down, blames himself for Dalit's death, and bitterly regrets not being there to protect her. The main character sharply interrupts him and says, "You are wrong." Captain shook his head and explained that although many knights left with Dengaro, a few truly talented night mages still remained in the estate. This only deepens the mystery. How could they have lured Dolce to go out alone on the street? Captain, with anxiety in his voice and gaze, suggests escorting him back to the estate. As they approach, a skeletal lick emerges from the darkness and announces that he has long awaited his master. The skeletal figure met them. It was already waiting for their arrival. He insisted that the main character see with his own eyes what he had discovered. Around them, the room transformed into a virtual space, as if woven from the skeleton's own memories. Suddenly, a photo of a woman appeared on the screen. She was instantly recognized. It was Dokham's wife. This space was like an exact copy of Dokham's office, down to the smallest details. The creature whispered that he had found exactly what the hero was looking for. Suddenly, a drawer slid open by itself, and a stack of documents appeared before their eyes. He picked up a letter addressed to Dokham, from some stranger who called himself Irrefusal. He broke the seal, and his companion froze, watching this with anxiety. In the letter, black on white like a verdict, it was written, to get rid of the cunning little fox in exchange for the promise of a barony. His companion instantly realized that the letter concerned Dolce, because the skeleton noticed how easy it was to restore the necessary information. Then the main character took out a real sealed letter from his belongings. She froze and wondered if Dokham knew the truth, but he was arrested before he could do anything. He calmed her down, explaining that this was a classic trap the Baron had set bait to frame a subordinate. He asked Kenna if she had heard of Count Irrefusal, the very one who had connections with the Abbas family. When the information became insufficient, the main character decided to call his agent. The shadow thickened and whispered an oath to be completely obedient to its master. Kenna froze in incredible amazement and could not accept the reality of what was happening. Suddenly, a terrible thought flashed in his mind. Ali could also have been targeted, and he might already be poisoned. He was already about to leave, but just before going out, he quietly whispered to Kenna, "Eat and do not open the door to anyone." He threw on his hermit's cloak, an item that hid him from the eyes of lower-class people. Morning had just come. He slipped through the window and found himself in the city. He looked down at the knights training. Their movements were clumsy and undisciplined. The training felt more like a relaxed sports club than strict military drills. He overheard several men grumbling among themselves that their captain was too harsh in his methods. Another captain enthusiastically said that the beast folk were the best race, praised Goliath's genius, and spoke of JD as a source of inspiration. And then the gossip turned to Captain Rotten, who had recently been severely reprimanded by Dokham. They whispered that after the previous leader's death, Dokham seized power and promoted his own people there. One of the knights instantly silenced the others, fearing that Dokham's servants were eavesdropping. Walking the corridors, he intercepted a few more everyday chats about the Adventurers Guild. The longer he observed, the clearer it became. Dokham's influence was much stronger than he had imagined. Suddenly, he noticed a young fox boy, whom he immediately recognized. Boy Cloud raised his head, and it seemed also recognized him. The boy shouted in shock, looking past the main character. The woman greeted him warmly, and the boy asked with surprise who this stranger was. She introduced herself, Alicia, the wife of Captain Rotten, and called the boy their son Cloud. The boy politely introduced himself, and his mother quietly explained that he came to cheer them up after Dolce's death. The main character quickly assessed the situation, and an unspeakable tension instantly hung in the air. Alicia, mentioning it as if in passing, confessed that she was the niece of Count Irrefusal, thereby confirming his suspicions. A knock sounded from the neighboring room. They were called for breakfast along with his companions. From behind the door, a gentle, polite question was asked: would he join them? The group enters the restaurant, the very establishment where the Rotten family always gathers together with their servant Como. The bony servant asks the hero if something is bothering him, but he just waved it off. A woman with fox ears proudly says that the Loughton family, a branch of the Abbas clan, has been knights for generations. The hero was mentally unfolding political maps, tensely weighing whether Lawton or Cloud would become the next heir of the Dingaro family. While others argue about complicated family ties, the young warrior blushes and completely loses himself from all these hints. She teases him with jokes about the upcoming wedding. He is so embarrassed that he blushes and doesn't know where to hide, and the main hero just silently watches. The next morning, the head of the house meets them at a generously set breakfast table. He immediately asks where Kana is and learns that she hasn't even opened the door. He let the maid go, and a cruel thought already arose in his mind. Kana is too weak, she can be removed, and he agreed with this. Telepathically, like a quiet voice in his head, he decides to pour the maid Sumeragi a drink and slip a non-toxic poison into it. Sumeragi, without the slightest suspicion, takes the spoiled drink and doesn't even guess what's in it. Others worry whether it is safe to leave Kana alone, but the main hero simply brushed off their fears. The head of the house sharply turns to Shin and insistently demands to be told how the investigation is progressing. The noblewoman announced that she entrusts Sumeragi to investigate the Dolce murder case once again. She sighed with relief. The princess and the palace were unharmed. The patriarch of the family strictly stated that as long as the investigation continues, no details. The boy clings to this thought and persistently repeats that he cannot say anything more right now. And then the noble lady directly addresses Mr. Sumeragi. She, as if pleading, asks, "Is there any way to help in the investigation of Dalha's murder?" The young warrior swears protecting the Abbas family is the meaning of his life, and for this he trains tirelessly day after day. He passionately talks about his deep admiration for Dolce and Alice and about his burning desire to avenge the killer. Gripped by fear that Alterius is the next target, he decided to become her shield, although he considered himself weak. He confirms this and, looking at the boy, briefly orders, "Stay close to Alterius and guard her." The boy fervently swears to protect her just as his father once swore. Meanwhile, Kana is sound asleep in her bed, as if the whole world around has frozen. A sharp splash of water magic tears her from the embrace of sleep. A noisy new ally loudly greets the main hero, impatiently eager to join. Women discussed Kano's new combat outfit. It was truly effective, but perhaps a bit too revealing. He dragged Kano away, leaving the main hero alone with his plans. The hero, with a heavy heart, tells an old acquaintance that he is going on a solo reconnaissance and leaves Hannah under his care. He and his skeleton servant appear in the middle of a gloomy, lifeless desert landscape. The servant came across 3 human bones and tremblingly suggested that they might belong to the killer Dolce. The hero suspects that this is a dump, a place where things were brought to erase evidence of a crime committed elsewhere. Having no other clues, the servant silently prepared to dispose of the remains. When Kano returns to the city, she is fitted with an exquisite new dress. The shop owner loudly announced that the main hero had paid 1,000,000 gold for that outfit. Kano, delighted, exclaims that this dress is a true treasure that she will save for special occasions. The main hero silently stands on the street and watches. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a stranger appears, grabs Kina, and mistakes her for some Sumeragi. The attacker lunged. It became clear that he had hostile intentions. He recognizes the main hero, the real Sumeragi, and asks distrustfully, "Why is he with a slave?" The man drew his blade and coldly said that their lives were doomed, and the main hero ordered Kano to retreat. Kano explodes with rage. She was torn apart by anger because this man ruined her master's precious gift. The main hero tensed, preparing for a strike, bewildered by the sudden intervention. The swordsman from the Beast clan swiftly intercepts the attack. His speed is dazzling. The hired assassin froze. His new opponents turned out to be incredibly fierce. From the rooftops, the wizard sends a barrage of fiery spears at the man. Another ally summons tree magic roots, burst from the ground and tightly entangle the target. They tied up the defeated assassin. He is helpless, and the group demands an answer. Why was he targeted? Suddenly, a skeletal servant appeared and with a cold voice explained that the attack was meant to stop their investigation and silence Hannah. Holding a letter, the hero sharply announced that he had the final proof. It was time to return to the manor. Hannah looks, and an unshakable determination has frozen on her face. When all the evidence is gathered, the main hero, with a firm heart and resolute step, decides to return to the Abbas family house. Inside, the lord of the house flared up with rage and could not believe that the real culprit was found. When the group of main heroes enters, the guard rushes to stop them, but they easily push him aside and simply walk past. The hero mocks the man he has already defeated, and the man's face twists into a mask of fury. Princess Sumeragi addressed the gathered nobles. Her face was gloomy. All present, the lord, the princess, and the captains of the 3 knight squads. When everyone gathered, the main hero, holding his breath, finally prepares to reveal the truth he discovered. The master swears to listen, desperately seeking answers, and the princess gently assures him, "You will not regret it." The main hero decisively ordered the guards to lock the room tightly so that no one would interfere. Then he summons the terrible skeletal lick. His dark energy envelops the hall. The knights instantly became alert. The sudden appearance caught them by surprise. The lord screamed in alarm when a monstrous creature loomed over them. The captain shouted for everyone to retreat. He was gripped by a sense of terrible danger. When the lick is near, the air becomes icy, an aura of death that makes even the toughest warriors tremble. The bony creature calls itself Baze, a subordinate who unquestioningly follows the orders of its master. It raises its hand. The air around tightens, for it is preparing to perform a forbidden ritual. Splashing spiritual energy, the lick began the summoning ritual. The air trembled, and before him appeared the ghostly figure of Dulce. Spectators froze in eerie silence, not believing whether this was truly the soul of the dead boy. The princess notices that the ghost is so ethereal and transparent that no living hand can touch it. To be sure who exactly stood before her, she asked the spirit a question that only the real Dulce would know. The spirit answers precisely and confidently, stating who he is, while the boy's father stands stunned and speechless. The spirit Dulce, with tears in his eyes, begs his father and sister to forgive him for leaving them so early. He bitterly speaks of his regret and sorrow, lamenting that he could not protect them. The main hero suddenly interrupts the touching reunion and, addressing the grieving lord, asks if he may continue. He turns to the spirit of Dolce and asks the most important question: was Kana his killer? The spirit responded instantly and unequivocally, and she was not. He confesses that Kana had already tried to save him even before 3 unknown assailants suddenly attacked him. The captain of the knights protests vehemently, but the lord silences him and demands to hear the whole story. The main hero quietly but confidently confirms that those 3 attackers were from the slums. The lord shouted angrily that those men had long since fled the city. The main hero calmly and without any unnecessary emotion refutes his claim. He shows the 3 killers now. They are lifeless puppets under his control, and the whole room froze in shock. The knights suddenly recognize one of them, a key witness, the very one who testified against Kana. Seething with rage, the lord rushed forward to kill his son's murderers. The hero stops him and says loudly, "Those men are already dead. Attacking them is pointless." The anger in him has not yet subsided, but the lord agrees to move forward to find the one who planned everything. The hero confirms there are others involved, and he prepares to expose the real culprit. He asks the spirit Dolce who deceived him beyond the city walls that day. Then he sharply gives an order to his 3 undead servants: "Name the one who gave you orders." He gives the final command and points with his finger at the person responsible for this. 4 ghostly undead hands rose in unison, their fingers like arrows aimed at one target. They all, like arrows, pointed directly at one of the knight captains, revealing him as the mastermind of the operation. The accused Captain Gibbon froze, gripped by genuine, unfeigned terror. The main hero, with burning eyes, fiercely demands to know who ordered Dolce's murder. He sternly commanded the prisoners to point with their fingers at the one who planned it all, if such a person was in the room. All fingers pointed at Jabin, the sole guard, and he instantly denied it, insisting it was a setup. He desperately pleads his innocence and insists that it is a complete misunderstanding. But before he could explain anything, another man instantly rushed forward and knocked down Jiband without any warning. The attacker smashes Jibin's head against the floor so that he cannot escape. Crushed by the weight of guilt, Jibin confesses that he was only following orders. Suddenly the blade plunged into his chest and he fell silent forever. The noble Dokkum questions the attacker, who replies, "I just pushed Jiband down." The man insists fervently he simply missed when trying to detain the alleged killer. Dokkum Raijas finally revealed the truth: he had already kept Jiband under control using a spell. The main hero laughs scornfully at his own foolishness and says he could have simply stopped the spell. He summons a skeletal figure and with fierce calm says that Jibin's soul can now be interrogated. The soul cannot lie. He, cold as ice, thanks Dokkum for his help in this matter. The main hero leaves the last word to the count. He must decide: interrogate the spirit or just drop the case. The gazes locked, tension froze in the air. The count resolutely asks the soul of Jibin who gave the order, and the spirit quietly whispers the name of his master Dachum. Exposed, Dokkum grabbed the maid Hannah and frankly confessed he did it for the promise of a promotion. He sharply warns he will kill his hostage if anyone else takes a step. The main character stands like a stone and asks, is the life of one maid worth serving as a shield? The princess begs him to stop, but Dakem cold-bloodedly says that sacrificing a servant is a trifle in the name of a nobleman's ambitions. Hana squeezes her lady's hand and softly whispers, "Don't worry," but the princess stubbornly refuses to leave her. Dakem suddenly fiercely grabs the servant and growls for her to be silent. Then he twists another lie, insists that Hana threatened him and that she is actually to blame. The monster can make the warriors burst into a roar so that their lord punishes the traitor. One of the guards, Goliath, rushed forward, with one blow cut off Dakem's hand and pulled Hana from the fountain of blood. Goliath clutches his heavy wound and realizes his fate is decided. Dakem shouts at the maid, demands that she help, and grimly threatens her with the consequences of disobedience. The Beastman leader looms over the fallen nobleman, his blade at the ready. He confesses he killed Jabin because he was terribly afraid that he would be framed for this murder. Dakem desperately denies everything and insists that the protagonist is manipulating them all. The protagonist insists no trial is needed when no one believes the merchant's words. A paper airplane, one of the hero's creations, quietly floats down and gently lands next to the princess. She notices the inscription on it. A letter to Dakem, warmly congratulating him for neutralizing the killers. The letter contains a promise to make him a barren, clear, unshakable proof of the conspiracy. The Beastman Lord suddenly realizes this letter must be from Count Arefusel. When the evidence spoke for itself, Dakem finally admits his guilt. The protagonist exposes the full scale of the conspiracy. Count Fusel is the very mastermind who ordered Dakem to kill Dolce. The plan was simple: if everything failed, to pin the blame on Jiban and assign the other part to another person. In the second stage, a fake robbery is arranged under its cover. Another nobleman is to be killed so that a representative of the Fusel family can take his place. The group is racking their brains. Who from the Fusel family is capable of this? The letter stunningly exposes the last conspirator. It is addressed to the dear niece of Count Alicia. The rotten warrior froze in shock. Suddenly, he realized that Alicia Cloud was behind the conspiracy. A young boy named Cloud rejects the future of the Count. In his heart is another dream: to become a knight to protect his family. Suddenly, a man named Rotten appeared before the gloomy scene and demanded fiercely to know what was happening. Then Cloud's mother, Alicia, froze in horror. She understood that this terrible situation was real. Her husband burst through the door, his face twisted in pain. The young noblewoman stands in the distance and watches the chaos unfold. The summoned hero Altaris and his squad held their breath and watched the confrontation tensely. In the garden, Cloud calls out to his father. That night, when Rotten cast his icy gaze on his own wife and child, Alicia, in horror, her husband is involved, and he, looking grimly, confirms her worst suspicions. He grimly declared that, being of the Abbasid Knight, he must kill her on the spot. But even before his blade could descend, the young Khmar boldly parries the attack. The boy could not match his father. With one cruel blow, he knocked him down. Alicia tightly embraces her son, covered in blood, with only one thought in her mind: has her husband lost his mind? Rotten orders her to step back, but Cloud defiantly shouts, "Night is the time to protect the weak." Princess decisively orders Rotten to immediately stop this madness. Overwhelmed by the conflict, the knight's resolve finally cracked. He releases the sword and quietly apologizes to his wounded son. He kneels at his feet and lays the weapon on the ground. He solemnly addresses his lord and, with a heavy heart, beseeches forgiveness for this failure. He confessed he did not have the courage to kill his wife. To atone, he presses the blade to himself, a shocking, gruesome sight. He whispers that he will pay for his failure with his own life. Cloud screams in despair, seeing his father fall. While the boy holds his dying father close, the guards desperately call for a healer. Altaris and his companion looked at each other grimly and silently. Aina rushed forward, ignoring the warning that her skills were insufficient. Huge magical energy accumulates inside her. She is preparing to utter a powerful spell. Blinding light explodes. She releases another healing spell. Dazzling glow of the highest level magic stunned everyone who watched. They only watch in awe at the incredible display of power. Healing succeeded. Rotten is unconscious, but his life is saved. Cloud sobs with relief while his mother gently comforts him. The Lord exposes the true puppeteer. It turns out Alicia's uncle had cunningly planned Dolce's murder. Alicia confesses when she heard that Dolce died, she was forced to enter into this conspiracy. The Lord angrily bellows to his general to prepare the armies for war, but Dolce himself appears, steps forward, and stands in the way of this order. The Lord froze in surprise. He did not understand why the boy dared to stop him. Dolce fervently begs to stop the war. He refuses to allow people to suffer because of him. He looks at Altaris and in his gaze reads a choice. There was no other way, only this could save Hana and expose the true villain. The boy turned around and thanked Kana with all his heart. He glanced at the tearful healer and whispered that her efforts saved a life, so she should smile. The team held their breath for a moment, a bittersweet calm enveloped them. Dolce says he is glad finally he managed to say a proper goodbye. In his last request, he fervently begs the Lord to continue protecting the city and all its people. The nobleman stood in thought and looked at the consequences. The Messiah is dead, Kana is free, and Abba's influence has diminished. At first, standing by the window, the main character again says in a firm voice, his mission was never a choice. He decides to defeat the old man and the god who rules this world. Meanwhile, they tell Kenny, now she is free and their paths must part. Quietly, she accepts her freedom. The head of the house solemnly presents her with a new set of clothes, a gift in honor of her return. Hannah accepts the improved attire with a smile and still calls the main hero her master. The nobleman, with a voice trembling with gratitude, solemnly thanks him for the invaluable help in their conflict. The main hero says that Dockham and his associates have been captured, and this has shaken the power of the Abba's family. The nobleman promised to convey the bitter truth about Abuse's evil deeds to the royal family, but admitted that a single formal complaint is not enough. The main hero presses him, gather more evidence. Shameful rumors are already spreading about their enemy. A new agreement was made. The hero was promised 30 million gold just to continue serving. The nobleman nodded and sighed with relief. He would not have to risk his own troops in direct combat. Suddenly, the main hero pulls out a stack of papers, irrefutable evidence of Eric Fusel's crimes. The evidence is in his hands, the handwriting is confirmed. He is finally convinced that the request has been fulfilled. The nobleman assures him that Kana's room is being kept for her if she ever wants to return. Arteris warmly welcomes Kina, who has returned, smiling from the heart. When she was served tea and some food, she was told directly she needs to sign papers to record her return to the family. Arteris leads her to the guest room. Ahead of them awaits a meeting with her father. Standing before them, Kana suddenly froze and began to hesitate. She says she wants to continue following her master and begs to be made his slave again. She explains, in his eyes a deep loneliness, the loneliness she knows all too well from her past pain. Kana sincerely pleads with him, take me with you on this journey. He tells her about the dangerous path and dreadful plans, but she remains determined anyway. She swears to give her life for his cause, ready to challenge the world and even God to stay by his side. Her determination moved Arteris, and he defended Kana's choice, while her father, shaking his head, spoke of her incredible devotion. Arteris sincerely embraces, celebrating his decision. The main character suddenly realizes this will create a new problem. And at that moment, a man entered the room, leading a beastman in chains, and explained that she was supposed to replace Kana. The main character froze, and a crushed voice tore the truth from him. This very girl had recently tried to kill him. The nobleman calmly says that he knows all the circumstances. He explains that she was also a victim. She was forced because Dockham took her sister hostage. As punishment, they decided to give her to the same man, the one she tried to kill. Arteris asks Kana for her opinion and firmly emphasizes that the girl had no other choice. While Hannah hesitates, the main character, like a cold stone, refuses and proposes a harsher punishment for the one who tried to kill. Kana immediately bursts out in protest, sincerely sympathizing with the helpless girl and directly accusing their common enemy of this tragedy. Arteris decisively declares, if he does not take the girl, she will buy her instead of him. He feels responsible for this. The hero finally yields and allows the killer to follow him, but sets one strict condition: she must obey his orders without question. He barely audibly agrees to his terms. The girl swears, I will give my life and obey only his orders. When his new comrades appeared nearby, the team finally formed. The noble gentleman nervously hints at the law, and the main hero with a slight smile assures that it is just for show. He persistently urges them to prepare for departure. There is still so much work ahead. Suddenly, a status window flashed on the screen. Anna's data appeared there. Fight King, level 28. Ingaro earnestly asks Sumeragi for a favor for the sake of his soldiers. He says their fighting spirit is broken and begs Sumeragi to train them. Elsewhere, a little boy carries food to his father's locked door and desperately begs him to return. He waits silently. There is no answer. Gathering all his courage, the boy opens the door. He froze when suddenly Sumeragi and his squad appeared before him. The main character asks about a man nicknamed Rotten, and the boy simply confesses his father is upstairs. Sumeragi did not waste time. He kicked the door so hard that it flew off its hinges. He stands before Rotten and says directly, Dingara wants you to train the knights. Sumeragi, furious to the edge, grabbed the disgraced captain and demanded that he resign from his position. The boy runs in and calls for his father. He tries to defuse the situation and says to his father, "It's okay." The princess sincerely vouches for her lord and pleadingly asks Rotten to trust him. From below came the desperate cries of a soldier. He begged his captain to return. Without his leadership, they feel completely lost. The past defeats paralyzed Rotten, and he feels unworthy to lead others. His companion fervently begs Sumeragi to intervene. Inside, the hero boiled with rage, and how else does he have to deal with this when he was forced to fight for his own life? He suggests Rotten can master his skills and then pass them on to others. Sumeragi shouted, "Training starts right now, let's head to the Forest of Skulls." Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the capital of the kingdom of Lucasandale. A sudden piercing scream of pain cut through the air. There, the exhausted hero is healing, and coldly told that in such a state he will never be able to defeat the demon lord. Tired of being forced to fight in a foreign world, he breaks free. The healer Suzunen feels helpless. She thinks her only use is just to heal wounds. He glanced at Tsukuru. He is training alone again. Her friend teases her about her feelings for the boy, but she stubbornly insists he is just a childhood friend. Friend smiles and gently assures her, with his level S luck, everything will be fine. He silently agrees. In the thick of the forest, Sumeragi assures Ganu, the soldiers will survive, the medical supplies he left will save them. Hana asks to join the training, but he firmly refuses, saying their next mission is to save her sister. They found themselves at the walls of the Fusel estate. That's where she is held captive. Sumeragi again firmly assures, the life of the hostage is above all. Hana sincerely thanks her master with all her heart. Using their skills, the team becomes invisible to the naked eye and, like shadows, stealthily slips past all patrols. They slipped into Garrosh's mansion like shadows, and the guards didn't even suspect. The interior turned out to be even more tasteless than they imagined. It was decorated with a golden statue of the owner. Suddenly, a skeleton-like familiar appeared and informed the group, the target Sanya is in the underground chamber. The undead brazenly boasts, saying no wall will stop its movement. They approach the chamber, and it turns out, the skeleton has no keys. Sumeragi gathers all his incredible strength to break the lock, and Hana rushes to her wounded sister. He agrees she needs to be taken out of here right now. Hana loudly calls out her sister's name. She presses the limp body of her brother or sister to herself, and Sumeragi and others just watch. He remembers his terrible past, those times when happiness was torn from his hands and shattered right before his eyes. In the world where he was summoned, even the most important thing was stolen from him, the right to life. Like a wave, a girl named Ayumi emerges in his memory, and again his heart aches from her loss. He still remembers the sinister laughter of the figure in the cloak standing over the fallen body. Meanwhile, in the quiet, majestic world, the goddess notices what a pleasant day it is today and sincerely thanks Sumeragi Tsukurusen for the efforts. In her realm, she luxuriates in peace. But she is fragile, and deep sorrow sits in her chest because she knows it came at a great sacrifice. When she looks into the divine mirror, a terrifying vision appears before her. Suddenly, the image shatters into pieces. Her servant, filled with anxiety, warns that the world stands on the brink of the end. The goddess immediately orders the space-time wall to be repaired. She says with a tremor that for centuries people have disappeared from Japan, taken by a mysterious phenomenon known as summoning. Each event shakes the walls between worlds, and now they are on the verge of a complete collapse. A corrupted god from another world arranges a mass summoning of over 100 people, a ritual that will tear the barrier. She decisively intervenes and focuses all her attention on one summoned individual, the one who has almost no influence. To ensure his survival, she endows him with culinary power grown from his hobby cooking, and floods him with insane luck. She grants him a blessing, a power that will remain sealed until his body can withstand its colossal might. Tsukuro, the man she chose, says he has been waiting for this very chance to punish the rotten gods. The goddess swears, I will help him. Those who sacrifice her world will not escape retribution. Returning to the present, a young beast girl hurriedly brings Tsukuro a towel and fresh water. She does not take her eyes off him while he rests. He sat silently by the fire, and she quietly slept in the chair nearby. Suddenly, he is overwhelmed by a memory, a vivid vision of returning to his old home. He suddenly remembers a note from his sister, Ayumu. She had planned to throw a banquet in honor of his exam. He remembers, as soon as he entered the kitchen and music started playing, he immediately got confused. Memory again drags him back to that painful call. The phone informed about a terrible accident. Before his eyes, a funeral, photographs of his family who died in a head-on collision. His life shattered into pieces, and he was left completely alone. The phone abruptly pulled him back to the present, but he is still lost in painful memories. When the woman tells him that Sanya has woken up, he quietly nods. A young beast girl enters and addresses him, Master. He thanks him with tears for saving her and reuniting her with her sister. Using his unique skill, he prepared a simple, easily digestible dish for her so she could recover. Filled with emotion, she sincerely thanks him again. He extends a spoon to her full, steaming, with a quiet care in the gesture. Her face lit up and she exclaimed, "What a delicacy." Looking at her, before his eyes appears Ayumu, her cold, broken body, which he had seen with his own eyes. Suddenly he called Sanya, and she shuddered at his voice. He asks if she has ever heard of a country called Japan, but this name is foreign to her. She explains that she and her sister have devoted their whole lives to service and do not remember anything from before that. Sakura fell silent and did not ask any more questions. Her sister begs him to eat, but he ignores her. He abruptly stands up and swiftly goes down the stairs. Kanan follows him and, unable to contain her curiosity, asks why he has been acting so strangely since he met Sanya. He admits that at first he mistook Sanya for an acquaintance, but waved it off saying it was just a misunderstanding. He suddenly changes his tone sharply and says they need to hurry to the Bull Forest to meet Ratten-sama. Kanan asks him, "Tell me the truth when you are ready." He agrees and a gloomy expression settles on his face. In the vast Bora forest, the Beastman commander rallies his troops to rush into battle against the monstrous threat. He growls the order, "Fight to the death, there will be no retreat." The hero and his companion froze, unable to look away from the knights who charged into battle against the enemy. They loudly swear an oath they will fight for the honor of their house. With a final joint assault, the knights crushed the enemy and felt a surge of strength flood their chests. A colossal bird crashes to the ground with a roar. Its gigantic body causes the forest to fall silent. The victors shouted joyfully after they had slain the level 140 beast. They had nothing left to fear. They decided to hold a festive feast to solemnly and joyfully celebrate their great victory. Returning to the city, they approach the grand gates of the manor. Lauten, the Beastman commander, loudly announces that his duty is now fulfilled. He explains that he cannot enter his clan once offended the Pan, but the mission's task is already completed. The main hero acknowledges that Lauten has grown and become stronger, a compliment to which the commander only modestly waved off. But suddenly the master of the house appears at the door. He insists, allowing such a high-level warrior to roam freely is too dangerous. He gives Lauten a new goal to lead the newly formed city guard unit. The master of the house is the one who tames beasts that threaten the territory and stands to protect the people. He sees enormous potential in Lauten and says that losing such a promising knight would be a great loss. Deeply moved, Lauten accepts the position and swears loyalty. The young page, with tears in his eyes, thanks and vows to serve with his life. In the manor, the team enjoys a hard-earned meal. It turned out that the wolf girl recovers much faster, a pleasant side effect of this powerful food. The hero makes his masterful move. The letter exposing the corruption of the previous count has already reached the king. He extends his hand to the two wolf girls, calls them to stand beside him, and promises protection and food. The younger girl, with tears in her voice, desperately begs, "Don't leave me." He takes them into his team, and she glows with joy. Before setting off, they quickly review the catalog so that the newcomers have all the necessary equipment. While they bustle with the final preparations, the master of the house approaches. The noble family sees them off, sincerely and constantly calling, "Return." The daughter gives the hero a family dagger, a symbol of their bond, asking him to take care of himself. Then she hugs the wolf girl and a sincere, touching moment flashes between them. She gently said to them, "You are forever like sisters to me, and this is your home." The main hero and his friends silently watched this touching farewell. Having said goodbye, the company turned and set off. The main hero looks ahead. In his heart is iron determination, and they set out on the road. His companion asks where they are heading, and with astonishment learns that they are returning to the great forest of Bora. He sternly says that their new allies need to be trained. They are not yet ready for the battles ahead. He sharply cut off their joyful excitement and sternly reminded them that their path was not for jokes. Suddenly, a shadow flew overhead. A huge bird appeared in the sky. The whole team raises their heads and immediately tenses. The silhouette of the creature looms over them like a sinister shadow against the clouds. The companions screamed in fear. Such a creature should not be so close to people. And then they suddenly see it is not one, but a whole squadron of majestic birds flying proudly in formation. Their route is direct and decisive. They rush straight to the city of Algiers. The group lifts their eyes to the sky. From there, as if from legends, emerges a giant bird, a creature that should live only deep in the great wolf forest. The giant bird creature rushes straight to the city of Arglia. One of his companions roared that she would destroy it, and unleashed a spell, a fiery spear. Her magic, infused with wind, exploded in a fiery vortex and instantly swallowed the monster. Hanan catches the mage at the very moment she descends, and the twins cannot hide their admiration. Suddenly, one of the girls screamed for him to look back behind him. A monster burst out of the darkness, its sharp claws targeted the two hanging in the air. Suddenly, a skeletal figure appeared, blocking the attack and loudly warning, "An horde of monsters is approaching." Kanan understands, even with the most powerful allies, the city will pay with lives if they do not take action. He decisively decides, "We will intercept the horde here and now," and orders the others to stand behind him. The mighty sorceress casts a vigilant, unwavering gaze at the approaching swarm. With just a whisper of a spell, she unleashes a destructive storm of flames that burns everything to ashes. The twins froze in awe and shock. The destructive power of her magic stunned them. One wants to ask, could they also become that strong if they just trained diligently? The hero loudly shouted, "Training starts right now." He coldly orders Anna to kill the silver elephant of level 230. He will use Darkbind to weaken the beast and give her a chance to deliver the final blow. Hannah instantly activates several enhancement skills, her body shining with power, and she bursts forward. She unleashed a devastating strike, but from the recoil of her own enhanced power, she severely injured herself. She falls and level-up messages explode in the air while her sister screams her name in horror. He explains that the human body is too fragile for her immense strength and offers her a dish prepared with his highest culinary skill. He warns pale Hannah, "If you don't eat this now, you will die." Her sister desperately stuffs food into her mouth, pleading for her to swallow. Dazzling light bursts from Hannah's body, the wounds begin to heal. Before anyone could blink, her hand was whole again, and she apologizes for causing trouble. Mage says admiringly how kind their master is to Hannah. He says that Hannah doesn't know how to heal, but the mage had to be trained much more harshly. His companion offers rice balls, small pieces of power that increase endurance and prepare everyone for the next battle. Main character points Sonya to her target Sulfuria level 2020, strictly warning her not to be reckless. Sanya nods and swiftly throws himself into battle with a monster resembling a plant. He watches their perfect combat synchronization and realizes with horror, when her sister is wounded, Sanya also gets injured. Between them is an unnatural bond, and he decides to get to the source of this strange attachment. Beast suddenly lunges forward and slashes Sanya's arm. Shouting her name, a painful memory suddenly bursts into his mind. In an instant, he emerges behind her and takes the blow meant for her. Sanya, stunned, turned around and asked if her master was okay. He gently reassures her the wound is not serious, he is just glad she is safe. He tells her, as if encouraging her, keep fighting with renewed passion. After the battle, the group finally enjoys a large, truly well-deserved curry dinner. The main character arranges a huge feast with generous dishes, piles of snacks, and sweet dessert for his comrades. A ridiculously huge special portion is placed in front of Kanano. He notices how she carefully avoids the raw onions and suddenly feels an invisible presence nearby. Late that night, Lick whispered to him in his thoughts, since he met Sanya, he has been restless. The ancient creature mockingly looks at him, hinting that he has fallen in love with a girl and is now suffering. The main hero fiercely rejects the accusation, his hand tightly gripping the blade. His bony companion says, "It's just a joke, don't be so nervous." Suddenly, the hero raises his aura and feels a powerful, completely new presence. A sudden surge of energy tore the others from sleep. Outside, they were met by two threatening figures, and one of them contemptuously called them a human tribe. An otherworldly woman throws accusations in their faces. Allegedly, they are the ones who damaged the forest. A mysterious elf appeared and asked, who damaged her forest. Nearby, a skeletal figure warned its master, "Run." The main heroine instantly recognizes the immense power bursting from her. As Lick bays, retreats into the shadows, hiding from direct confrontation. The elf declares the forest a sanctuary and with a fervent voice demands that it atone for what has been done. He rushed forward and shouted, he will pay with his life. He barely manages to fend off the sudden fierce attack. She stands stunned. She did not expect him to be able to block her strike, and meanwhile he asks, why this unprovoked attack? Ignoring his pleas, she coldly cuts off. His sins are too heavy and his defensive power for a human is simply incredible. He stubbornly insists that he was only defending himself, and she maliciously gloats over that foolish mortal. The elf bursts with energy again and says, he could have died without pain. She hovers in the air and controls wind magic, and he realizes he cannot approach, so he activates his skill assessment. The results are stunning. She is Antiaya, an ancient elf of level 415, the founder of her entire lineage. Suddenly it dawned on him, she is the progenitor of the elves and her level exceeded his by more than 100. Ignoring his question, she coldly says, just die, and summons two giant tornadoes. The main character finds himself trapped amid fiercely roaring whirlwinds. He fights with all his might not to fall under the overwhelming force of the storm. His comrades stand at the edge of the forest, helplessly calling his name. They know if they go in, they will just become a burden, so they can only wait and believe in him. An inner voice whispered to him, "Stop fixating on defense, look closely at the enemy." Thrown to the ground, he sobs, complaining that in this world he is always forced to obey someone else's will. Overcome with pure defiance, he decides not to die until he crushes them all, unleashing dark and woody magic. Entio looks down, a little surprised that he is still resisting. He tears his way through the storm, and it disdainfully brushes him off, mocking and calling his efforts futile. The strike did hit, but only splattered her with her own blood. In a moment, he creates dozens of clones. They rush at her from all sides in a crowd. Doubles simultaneously descend on her, coordinated in their attack. She looks at the treacherous illusions with a mocking smile and prepares to crush them all in one blow. Stunned, she catches his quiet whisper, "You would have won if only you could have defeated them all." With one decisive blow, he ended the fight. His wild, instinctive move still blazes, and he stands over the fallen elf founder. She notices that he did not deliver the final blow. He explains that her second life skill prevents her from dying. She knows the second blow means death and throws a question in his face. "Why do you hesitate? After all, it is the natural law of battle." He notices she has her own circumstances, and he painfully wishes she had just talked to him from the very beginning. Entio quietly laughed in response to his words. She finally named herself Antie, the ancient elf, and only now felt the full power of the force she dared to challenge. When she asks his name, he says, "Sakura Sumeragi," and she solemnly surrenders to him. She gives herself to him completely and whispers, "Do with her whatever you want." His squad rushes forward, and Sonya stands ready, prepared to fight to protect her master from this new captive. Entio then asks if he intends to drive her into a furious rage and hunt her like the other monsters. This strange question instantly throws his companions into complete confusion. He admits that he had not listened to her before, and this prompts her to ask if she can now explain the situation. At that very moment, Basie emerges from the shadows, ready to report important news about the Great Wolf Forest. The group stands together, finally ready to hear the truth. The bony familiar pressed his master tightly to himself. The duty was fulfilled. The undead knight reported on the findings from the Great Wolf Forest. He checked everything by order of his lord. The protagonist paused for a moment. Could the familiars be to blame for the invasion of rabid monsters, but immediately dismissed this thought. The familiar explained that he came across traces of exiled monsters and felt a barely noticeable but strangely clear aura of a demon. The Elven Queen confirmed this in a cold voice. It turns out some demons can control monsters, so now they are not enemies. To atone for disturbing them, she sincerely offers them shelter in a hidden elven village. When they arrived, the elves joyfully and with shining smiles greeted their queen Antie at home. Antie strictly orders her subjects to tidy up the rooms and prepare food for their guests. She gently soothes the young beast folk, promising them a quiet and safe night's sleep. The group is led through the settlement, a place that steadfastly maintains neutrality towards the outside world. Antie explains the elves, of course, want peace, but have sworn to intervene as soon as the demons start interfering. The protagonist feels the weight of the situation pressing on his shoulders. The demonic threat would force both humans and beastfolk tribes to act. Antie sternly warned him, "Do not underestimate this danger. It is much more complicated than just one renegade demon." Then she begins to tell an ancient story, a tale stretching across millennia. It was a brutal war against giants and demons, in which 4 tribes united in an alliance and fought, but ultimately lost an entire continent. Even when peace prevailed around, the tribes of the Quad Alliance quietly built up their military strength. She reveals the human tribe has behaved suspiciously for the last 100 years, and this could spark a new continental war. If this demon is the first sign of a new attack, Antie decisively challenges, they will not allow history to repeat itself. She insists the Quad Alliance must become one again to repel the looming threat. The main character sits apart from the group, and the grim news does not bother him at all. Antie fervently begged for an alliance, but he understood in his soul, he did not care at all about her cause. Anan approaches and sees him right by the water itself. She asks if he is ready to cooperate with the elves, and he sharply refuses. He senses it without error, he is not from this world. Heinen recalled whispers about summoned heroes and about one who was rejected, a hero with the same name. He confirmed her suspicions, confessed that he was never one of them. He was abandoned in the Great Wolf Forest only because he was a cook and did not know how to fight. He tells about that hell he went through, survived only for revenge on those who betrayed him, not to save the world. Conan fiercely argues, reminding him that he was the one who saved her and many others in the city of Algria. She firmly took his hand and said that for her and the people he saved, he is a true hero. Tears well up in her eyes, she swears she will never forgive those who wronged him. Sanya and the others appear they overheard the whole conversation and now join her feelings in chorus. The protagonist froze in shock when he realized that his entire party was being eavesdropped on. Anna teases him, "Everyone adores you so much," and asks to join his journey. Even the elf queen extends a helping hand, whispering that her knowledge will be invaluable for his cause. All the girls surrounded him in a crowd. Conan flusteredly fusses amid this chaos. Antia remains alone, absorbed in thoughts about what the summoning of heroes truly means. She doubts the real purpose of this assembly. After all, there is no visible threat that would justify such an extreme measure. Suddenly, the earth itself trembled and began to crack. A colossal stone figure emerges from beneath the ground. Its grandeur makes the forest seem tiny. The group found themselves in a peaceful elven grove, gently embraced by crystal-clear waters. While the main hero and his team rest, the elf suddenly announces that their lunch is already ready. His beastly companion is glowing with impatience. She simply cannot wait to try the dish prepared by the elves. To their great surprise, the elves unexpectedly brought out the main dish, a giant roasted insect, caught especially for them. The main hero and the Samter team froze in stunned silence, gripped by horror at this dish. Nearby, an elven child gently asks her immortal Lady Antia to eat before she sets off to observe humans. Antia whispers to her sword, "I will return in 100 years. For her, it is only a moment, but for a human, an entire eternity." The company whispered none of them could even imagine that they would have to eat insects. But the elves eagerly encouraged them to taste, and one of them smiled and confessed that she often ate them when she got lost in the forest. The main hero looks with grim resignation, as if seeing no way out. He quickly enters, thanks the elves for their hospitality, and as a sign of gratitude, offers to prepare food for everyone. The elves froze in shock. How is he even going to cut that creature when its shell is too tough even for ordinary people? With the intention of putting on a real show, he draws his blade, ready to demonstrate all his skill. With one motion, he slices through the shell, as if it were iron, and the elves froze at his strength. But he prepares the banquet with masterful precision. He places on the table a perfectly cooked dish. His culinary skill transformed that hideous creature into a true masterpiece. His comrades cannot contain their excitement. They exclaim that the food is simply incredibly delicious. But the hero himself cannot resist a sharp remark. The elves overcooked the meat on the first try. After eating, the comrades moved closer, sincerely interested, and asked, what will he do next now that the training is over? He decisively admits his goal is a raid on the rough empire in the south, but immediately hears in response that the path is blocked. Comrades look worried, as if silently asking, does he even know the geography of this world? One of them smiles and admits that when he first got out of the forest, he went completely the wrong way. The elf leader, calling him hopeless, hands him a map of the continent. But it explains how the continent is arranged. Its lands are divided among elves, humans, and the central territory of the dwarf beast Fokin. It shows where they are now in the Great Wolf Forest and points into the distance at the Raid Crud Empire. They offer the most reliable route through two neighboring kingdoms, and suddenly the main hero recognizes one of them. It is there that a Chinos was sold. Conan assures that the route is safe. She has already traveled it before and there were no problems. Decision is made. We set off along the proposed path. Suddenly, their plans were interrupted by an elf who ran inside and shouted an urgent warning. They look up at the sky and see a huge object, like a falling meteor, rushing straight at them. The whole village runs away. Everyone rushes to look at this terrifying spectacle. One of his companions steps forward and, with unwavering determination, shouts that she will intercept it with her magic. The leader of the elves extended a helping hand and advised combining the spells of fire and wind so their strike would become the most powerful. They release a swirling vortex of destructive energy directly at the descending threat. The mighty combined spell shot into the sky and collided head-on with the object. Their magic touches the colossal mass. To their horror, the attack did not slow it down at all. The thing breaks through their spell without any effort. It crashes into the forest with devastating force, and before their eyes appears, it is a whole mountain. The squad breathed a sigh of relief. The village was spared a direct attack. The leader of the elves burns with rage. She swears to take revenge on everyone who dared to harm her sacred forest. Dust settles from the crater. Slowly emerges a towering figure. Before them rises the ancient giant Crafton, his appearance like a grim declaration of war. A line was drawn in the sand. The defenders swore, the forest will be protected at any cost. Their enemy turned out to be a ship that stood on the back of the ancient giant. Huge warrior laughs loudly, mocking the tiny stature of Antie. The main hero carefully studies his opponent, a high-class master of destruction, then without hesitation pushes him away like a coward who previously begged for help. Crafton, with a voice full of accusations, accuses the hero of organizing the recent monster invasion and insistently demands to know his ultimate goal. Antie seethes with anger and sharply asks why he appeared here, and the giant only says he came to check on her when her presence disappeared. He smirked, coldly realizing that she had lost her second life. Kraft lunged forward with a thrust and loudly declared that this would be their last meeting. The hero swiftly flips in the air and instantly intercepts the attack. His blade bit into the giant's hand and the first blood flowed. Stunned by the sudden attack, Crafton sharply demands to know who dared to attack him. The hero calmly says, "I took Antie's second life, I will deal with that giant myself." He roars with rage, loudly proclaiming his absolute hatred for the mighty tyrants who trample the weak. Kraft froze in amazement. He does not understand why he is protecting the very person he just defeated. The main hero sneers with a mocking smile. "You can't appreciate my strength, or are you just afraid?" He throws the last mocking ultimatum: apologize for destroying the forest and he will be spared. The giant, laughing, swings a colossal blow with a heavy weapon, but the hero effortlessly dodges. The spectators suddenly realized that from the very beginning it was his plan to lead the Titan away from the others. While evacuating civilians, they can only pray for his safety. Crafton lost patience because of those dodges and sternly demanded that he stop dodging and start fighting. The main hero smiles, mocking the giant's clumsiness, and brings the blade to a real duel. His sword scraped against the giant's rough skin, but Crafton just waved it off for him. It was just a minor itch. He boasts that the human blade is nothing to him, saying the first strike hit only because he was caught off guard. In fury at his agility, the giant smashed the ground where he had just stood. He roars, such agile moves are useless against his invincible strength. Another devastating blow, and again, it completely missed. Suddenly the hero appears behind the enemy and coldly warns, "Prepare yourself." Seized by the challenge, the giant lets out a roar. The anticipation of direct combat burns in his chest. Without hesitation, the hero unleashes a destructive move, a powerful hellish slash. The attack explodes with a dazzling flash of destructive power. The shockwave threw the spectators backward. They staggered from the incredible force of the blow. They watch, unable to believe their eyes, trying to understand the catastrophe unfolding before them. From the smoke emerges Crafton, laughing, and approaches to greet the boy, the first to survive the attack. His figure changes. He reveals his true face, appears as the founder of the tribe of giants, and sternly demands to know the name of his opponent. The hero utters his name, Tsukuru Sumiragi, a human. Crafton thoughtfully asks himself, has humanity spawned another ancient creature? Tsukuru shrugged off and simply said that he is just an ordinary human. The giant sees through the lie but shrugged it off as if it doesn't matter because Tsukuru made him serious. He throws a blow dazzlingly fast. The pressure wave hits first even before the fist itself and throws Tsukuru off balance. He is thrown to the ground, he is bleeding, and Crafton explains his carelessness caused the fall. The giant loomed over him and with a cold voice said, his fate is decided. Tsukuru gets up, in his eyes a challenge, and he says that he was just warming up. Crafton laughs. What a bold statement. He rushed forward again, swearing once and for all to put an end to this tough guy game. The beastman smiles mockingly, taunts his opponent and growls, why are you so passive? He mocks because Tsukuru's strength and speed have increased. He had to fully switch to defense. Tsukuru fights, his hands barely manage, he only deflects the relentless onslaught. The divine sword in his hand senses, for him, at the current level, this will be a tough fight. It is visible to the naked eye. Crafton's level and strength are significantly higher. In a direct clash, Tsukuru has no chance to win. The sword suggests a new strategy. Tsukuru must put on a mask and use dark magic to create a distraction while the sword tracks a vulnerable spot. The bark bursts out in a series of commands, pushing Tsukuru to move faster and more precisely. Crafton notices how the opponent's movements suddenly change. The sword pushes Tsukuru to bring his body to the very edge of strength. Suddenly a gap appears and the sword seems to command him, strike the enemy in the face. Kraft mockingly laughs and says that a dull sword will never hurt him, but suddenly the blade reveals its true nature, black mist. Tsukuru raises the weapon, holding his breath, preparing to unleash its power. He announces his final move. The beastman freezes in shock. A barrage of destructive blows is pouring down on Crafton. Beastman growls, stubbornly refusing to surrender. He brilliantly repels the attack, and Tsukuru can hardly believe his eyes. A powerful explosion burst out from the strike. Both fighters were lifted by the force and thrown back. Tsukuro lies broken and his sword insists, "Get up, restore your strength, and admit that their preparation was insufficient." Kraft looms over him. He needs to quickly whip up some food to recover while the opponent is still edible. He admits it was a worthy fight for the first time he was pushed that hard. Just as he was about to deliver the final blow, Kanan threw himself in front of him, shouting in defiance. He swears she will not allow him to kill her teacher. Tsukuro's consciousness fades and from the darkness emerges a mysterious voice. "Do you want to become stronger?" It throws him a stern warning. If he does not respond immediately, they will both perish. With new determination in his chest, Tsukuro swears, he cannot die here. He wants to be stronger than everyone. The divine being listens and agrees to remove her protection from him. She mysteriously whispered to him, "Soon you will understand everything." Tsukuro stands up. His wound seems to have already disappeared. A system window suddenly popped up on the screen. The seal of divine protection has been removed and he learned the unique skill, Banquet of the Gods. He rises to his feet. A new power emerges within him. Thanks to this skill, he prepares a dish that grants divine power for 5 minutes. Who gave him this power? It doesn't matter. He has only one goal in his heart, to defeat Krafton. As soon as he hastily swallowed the made item, the skill immediately activates. The message confirmed that he was temporarily granted the divine power of the goddess, and Kraft was simply stunned by this. The beastman laughed mockingly. He could not believe that some simple enhancement could defeat such an ancient being as himself. At that very moment, Tsukuro suddenly appears right in front of him and delivers a devastating blow. Krafton reels back, stunned by the insane speed, not even managing to feel it. He already doubts whether his enemy is even human when another fierce slash pierces his body. Tsukuro stands over the fallen enemy. His power is now overwhelming. He launches his final strike, the guillotine of hellfire. A dark stream of energy mercilessly swallows Krafton completely. Tsukuro silently watches as his enemy crumbles to dust. Rain begins to fall on the silent, desolate battlefield. After this, only emptiness remained. Divine power awakened, but the price paid was too high. The main hero stands on the corpse of a colossal beast like a victor, covered in its blood. His companion froze at this and only quietly whispered, "Master." He vainly tries to find the right words to say to him. Suddenly Sanya jumps on his back and exclaims excitedly, "How incredible you were in battle." The others gathered around and noticed his condition. One of them remarked she expected nothing better from her master. The first girl clenches her fists, anger burning in her from helplessness again for nothing, and his sacrifice would have meant nothing if he had lost. But one of their allies warns, the fight is not over yet. She reveals the terrible truth with horror. Their enemy Krafton has the skill Second Life. At that very moment, the resurrected Krafton rushed into attack, and the team feverishly begged their master to strike before his divine power faded. Krafton is too fast. He releases a powerful spell that knocks them all down. The explosion caught the main hero completely by surprise. The dazzling light cuts his eyes, the same as during the first summoning into this world. When it fades, he finds himself with his companions in a barren, alien desert. The power of Krafton's hammer tore them into a completely different world, but at least everyone is still alive. This place is familiar to the bones, almost the same world from which he comes. Horror grows in his chest. He realizes that this desolate wasteland is the very place from which he started. Suddenly he, out of nowhere, falls to the ground, shocking his comrades. Lying face down, he feels a strange sensation slowly enveloping him. His body suddenly becomes completely numb, and his comrades anxiously call his name. Meanwhile, in the capital of Lucas Sandal, one of the beast tribe desperately begs the summoned heroes for help. Suzunen, one of the heroes, rushes forward to heal his poisoned daughter, but her friend instantly stops her. Her friend sternly warns her, the beastmen are unreliable, they will probably attack and rob her. She coldly suggests this man probably kidnapped the child. People like him are known for pretending to be sick for money. Susan was torn inside, struggling hard with the bitter truth. In this world, life is not valued at all. Her friend says with disgust about the locals, they use people and abandon them without a second thought. She asks herself, why were they even brought into this cruel world of slavery and discrimination to make heroes out of them? Her thoughts fly to their abandoned classmate Tsukuro. She is terrified to imagine that he could have become a beggar or worse. Suzunan exclaims, begging her to stop saying such terrible things. Her friend presses her to herself, tries to comfort her, and persistently asks, become stronger and we will be able to defeat the demon lord and return home. She throws them a tiny ray of hope. On the way they might even find Tsukuro. Suzunan tightly squeezes her friend's hand, her heart full of faith. She once again convinces herself that she will definitely see Tsukuro again. Again, in the desolate wasteland, the main character lies unconscious. The price of his power has finally taken its toll. They closely gathered around the fallen master, desperately trying to bring him to consciousness. The mind is clear, but the body has betrayed. He is completely paralyzed, a consequence of the battle's recoil. His companions finally understood. This is the punishment of the beast god. It has taken away his sense of touch. That strange title given to him has such a scale that it simply shocks everyone around. It turned out that he was called an eccentric after that previous meeting when he forgot he was naked. Paralyzed, unable to utter even a word, he silently screams in his soul for them to stop their shameful chatter. Nta and Hannah returned from reconnaissance and exclaimed excitedly, "There are demons everywhere here and no other tribes." He listens, and in his memory roar the words of Crafton, "Giants and demons live on this land." Antioch with a trembling voice recounts to them Tsukuru's words, "The giants were long ago expelled during the War of the Gods." For a moment they ponder, could the ancient demon clan be extinct, but quickly dismiss it. It is impossible. Antioch suggests the power of other tribes can be subdued only in two ways: to conquer them or to imprison them completely. They are pierced by a terrible thought. Perhaps they are right now in that very prison. The main character confesses, this is only a theory, but without the sense of touch he is powerless and he needs time to recover. One of his companions immediately rushed to pitch the tent. The others quickly divided the tasks and, without delay, prepared to set up camp and make the place safe. One of the girls notices, Kanan seems to have drowned in an ocean of anxiety. Kanan tries to brush off the anxiety, stubbornly repeating that everything is fine. Hannah gently soothes her, whispering that worrying is normal in their situation, and warm food will calm the nerves a little. Later in the tent the group rests and the main character lies motionless. Hannah froze in surprise. He suddenly grabbed her hand at the very moment she was trying to check if he was all right. He silently regrets his weakness, dreaming of having the strength to protect her from suffering. The sword seems to want to speak for him, but he silently refuses. Hannah thinks about those deep scars from the trauma and knows well, they will need a very long time to truly heal. Suddenly, a sensation pierced his fingers. Again his senses began to return. When the sense of touch and skills returned in full force, he sharply stood up and summoned a powerful undead servant. He says they will investigate it, but notices the summoning swallowed an unusually large amount of magic. Glancing at his status, he noticed nothing strange, only that his weaker abilities were absorbed according to the rule of equivalent exchange. He involuntarily felt the high price of magic is a feature of this strange land, and instantly noticed some unfamiliar woman in his status. Out of irritation, he clenched his teeth. Ntia, with eyes blazing, vividly tells about aggressive scout demons she dealt with while they were asleep. She explains that from each demon corpse, his summoned familiar Bez absorbs souls and molds new minions from them. Bez returned from the mission and reported that, destroying their enemies, he reached the very edge of this world. The servant of the undead confirms their deepest fears. They are not in their own world here, but in a completely different dimension. Suddenly the hero realizes, in this new world there may be a key to return if only they can find truly strong enemies. Meanwhile, somewhere else, sitting on the throne, the Dark Lord learns that one of his squads has vanished without a trace. Commander is grim, not even bodies remain. They summon a servant named Gazan, an ancient being who has been imprisoned for centuries, and give it one single command: destroy the invaders. He cast a glance, knelt down, and without hesitation accepted his master's order. The skeletal mage confirms in a cold, bony voice, the ancient representative is exactly in this castle. The main hero gives the order and the team instantly prepares to move forward. Suddenly, like thunder out of a clear sky, a demon aristocrat appears in their path, a vampire count named Gazing. Level 245 demon swears he will exterminate all who dare disturb this sacred land. He had not yet finished his threat when he was abruptly cut off mid-sentence. One of the warriors of the Beast clan has already rushed forward in a lightning-fast and brutal attack. As they advanced further, one of the companions suddenly noticed an innumerable number of anomalies appeared around. The elf senses correctly, thus they are getting closer to their true goal, ancient type. The protagonist thoughtfully reflects on the giant's weapon Mjolnir, assuming that it was given to him by someone from outside. Another comrade only emphasizes this: elves, werewolves, and dwarves, none of them have the magic to create such an artifact. The Lick hints that behind all this are cunning death spirits hostile to the giant tribe, or that the weapon was stolen. Thus, suspicion falls on human or demon tribes, and the hero is forced to reconsider who this ancient species really is. Suddenly, the air compressed with incredible pressure, and thousands of soldiers were destroyed in an instant. The main hero recognizes this powerful presence. It is Antiaya, a creature above level 300, and he decisively says, "This massacre is unforgivable." One of his comrades responded by firing a burst of magical energy. The team clenched their will into a fist before the impending confrontation. Soon they find themselves face to face with new formidable enemies. On the throne sits an ancient evil Catubulpas, a level 440 demon, mocking one of the hero's companions. The demoness ruler with a mocking smile points to the treachery of her subordinate. He continues to speak in a condescending tone, calling them fools for daring to contradict him on his territory. The hero sharply cuts in, "Who is the real fool here if the demon tribe must borrow power just to fight?" The enraged beast warrior Sanya lunges forward and swears to kill him herself. The demon is already ready. He activates his skill, Cursed Eyes. Killed, Sanya froze in his gaze and fell, as if paralyzed, to the floor. Catubulpas mockingly declares, resistance to his ocular powers is futile. He loudly claims that no one will be able to look away from his cursed eyes. Demon launches a second attack. His eyes are poison. The hero instantly covered his fallen comrade and shouted loudly to the others, "Look away." Demon laughs, and in his words is cold confidence. Everyone touched by his curse has now become his puppet. But in a lightning-fast impulse, the hero instantly closed the distance between them. The ancient demon was instantly stunned by that impossible speed. Thanks to the presence detection system, the main character prepares to strike even with closed eyes. The creature froze, not believing its own eyes, as the man delivers a critical hit. When the demon tries to activate its second life skill, the hero coldly throws at him, "It's all over." He quietly spoke to the dying creature that of all the ancient species he had encountered, this one was the weakest. After the battle, the team looks around the monster's remains in confusion, and Sanya quietly apologizes she found nothing useful. The main character looks at the creature's meat with disgust and honestly admits that he does not want to eat it at all. Antiaya quietly approaches her master, kneels before him, and asks in a way that conveys all seriousness in her words. He begs, allow her to taste the feast of the gods. Shounen decisively made it clear she demands to taste the banquet of the gods. He feels that even in her dreams, Dolce still protects her. Suddenly, a woman with cat ears appeared in the doorway. Suddenly, the woman invited her for a walk, and Kanon simply froze because of it. Showing the jar, she asks Kanon not to tell Sani what is inside it. She opens the jar and it is full of sweets. This is the secret request of the Abba's family servant. Kanyon grieves over her as it seems to her hopelessness. It hurts her to realize that as a student she has not progressed at all. She compares herself to the servant with cat ears and calmly replies that unlike Kanon, she has sinned. Kanyon remembered that the servant was blackmailed, but she interrupts him saying that Lord Abbess and Master Alteria were also blackmailed. The servant swears to repay their kindness by giving herself completely to her master. She sincerely admits her skills do not compare to the master's, but she can still be useful. Her words seem to lift a heavy stone from Kanon's shoulders, and she sincerely thanks her. Inspired by new determination, she decides to use her abilities to the fullest and do everything in her power. The scene returns to the main character. He extends the divine artifact. He warns her that greed has limits, but she stubbornly wants to eat the feast of the gods. She knows this power will open to her the magic of space and time, the gift to travel between worlds, the very power she had longed for centuries. He warns her the effect will last only 5 minutes and then her senses will be destroyed, but she still agrees to pay this price. At first she whispers that as soon as his revenge is complete, she will be able to return him home. Or she says that she could even take him back to his native world. Just remembering his former home, and the hero's face darkens. Declaring that his heart no longer belongs to that world, he allows her to taste the banquet of the gods. He gazes intently at the golden shimmering piece of divine flesh. He insists that she focus on her desire while she swallows it. The taste is immediately disgusting, but he strictly orders her to swallow. She holds it inside and prays with all her heart for power, begging for the very space-time magic that will allow them to return. A powerful wave of energy bursts from her position. Blinding light envelops her, and ethereal spirits slowly emerge around. Others stand mesmerized, watching as warm, beautiful light fills the hall. With tears in her eyes, she announces that it is time for them to return. She utters a spell and their journey back to their own world begins. Somewhere, a man in a robe reports their failure. They say that to this day, no trace of what they seek can be seen. A voice from the shadows coldly declared, the last attempt failed, and ordered to summon the next batch of heroes. He mutters quietly, as if afraid he might awaken. He barked indignantly that all summoned heroes were below the 100th level and completely useless. He ominously reveals his twisted plan to gather the heroes who lost and sacrifice them during the next summoning ritual. Finally, before us stands the cold, merciless face of the one behind these summons. The mysterious woman smiles gently as the group is transported through a shimmering portal. Voice thundered, resolute and loud, "I am returning to my world." The hero finds himself alone in a quiet, unfamiliar garden. He looks around, suspicion in his eyes. He feels that he is no longer among his own. Realizing that this is not a wolf forest and not Japan, he heard a voice that gently welcomed him to her domain. He turned sharply, instantly tensing, and she calmly said, "No need to panic." The calm woman assures that she is not an enemy. She quietly and confidently introduced herself, Ohiru Minamikoto, one of the pillar gods of Japan. Impressed, he firmly demands to know where his friends are. The goddess, barely suppressing a smile, explained that she brought him here herself. She has a few requests for him. She says she knows literally everything about his life, even what happened before his birth. The goddess lists every detail of his summoning, and he freezes in amazement. He accuses her of inaction, but she quietly admits, if she had intervened, an interdimensional explosion would have occurred, destroying all of Japan. She explains in detail that the cataclysm would have spread across the entire planet, wiping out every living creature. Instead, she generously showered the summoned one with blessings, removing the seal from his S-rank luck and other abilities. Finally, the goddess confirms it was she who was the source of his incredibly powerful abilities. Suddenly changing her manner, she loudly declares that her blessing transformed all his skills into cheat-like abilities. She had to carefully adjust the power because her full might would instantly erase his first-level body from consciousness. He agrees with her arguments and asks, "What is your true goal?" She places one decisive task on his shoulders to destroy all interdimensional summoning platforms in another world so that kidnappings never happen again. He looks into his past and feels, this power was always meant for this. Kreswov Academy, obsessed with points, a character from the first correctional school, Iron Gates. He agreed to her terms, but with a gleam of cunning in his eyes, asked what his reward would be. The goddess froze in surprise. She thought her blessing alone was a sufficient reward, but he treats it as a separate deal. After a brief negotiation, she reluctantly agrees to his demand for additional compensation. She leans closer and, as part of the payment, slips valuable information. When the goddess spoke about his sister Ayumi, he instantly became confused. She smiles and joyfully announces that his comrades will soon be able to return home, all thanks to Conan mastering the magic of space and time. But she issues a stern warning: under no circumstances do not allow his classmates to return to Japan. To prevent global panic from erupting, the goddess had to go back in time and erase all 18 students from reality. She says that they no longer exist in Japan, their birth records have disappeared, and returning will only bring suffering. He wonders what will happen if someone insists on returning anyway. She proposes a solution: give them new identities and allow them to live as if they were completely different people. He sees the truth of their agreement, a dead end where neither can move without the other. The goddess proclaims their pact a mutual partnership. She gently places her hand on his face and says she is counting on him to succeed. But as soon as she utters his full name, he is sent away. Everything turns white before his eyes as he is carried out of her garden. He reappears in the wolf forest, and his companions greet him joyfully with relief on their faces. He silently curses the goddess Harem. She made his already difficult life even harder. Conan is sincerely worried, but all his thoughts are fixated on the new news about Ayumi. The companions do not tire of repeating. They persistently advise him to rest. They say it is the price for his divine ability. He agrees, but in his thoughts only his sister. He considers her fate a separate, much more urgent matter. He asks how many days have passed since Crafton retreated. The hero breaks into a smile and says that about a month has passed, sincerely thanking the allies for protecting the village and the forest while he was away. Suddenly, a fierce quarrel broke out among his companions. The dwarf grumbles about the losses and admits he and that ancient creature, lent their power to Antie. When the immediate crisis subsided, the main hero explains that news of the human country's troubles will now spread. His allies, tense and anxious, eagerly ask what happened after Crafton was forced to retreat. Elsewhere, a mighty figure lets out a deafening roar of despair. Anger burned within him over Temis's betrayal. He could not understand why he allied with Antie to trample them. He growls and says he will not hesitate to call upon demons to achieve his goal. He gave a chilling order: start a war against the traitor. In focus, a young woman named Suzanen, bent over in despair. Memories of a boy who begged her for help tear her apart. Faces of the deceased flashed through her thoughts, pressing on her heart and oppressively reminding her of her helplessness. She still remembers what it is like to be completely helpless. They call her a saint and she only knows how to heal. She has no strength to fight or say no to those who summoned her. She feels as if she has been a burden her whole life. Her friends protected her and she could only cry. A sudden knock on the door pulls her out of her trance. Her friend Mickey has arrived. Mickey insists that she eat at least something before she feels worse. As they walk to the dining hall, Mickey accidentally blurted out that today's lunch is steak. Suddenly, the students around them froze, staring wide-eyed at something further down the corridor. Their gazes caught Kuriyama Kaido, one of the others summoned, next to a small child slave. He smugly boasts that buying slaves is so easy for him, it's enough to sell loot from dungeons. Overcome with disgust, another student rushed at him reproachfully, but he brushed her off and threw a disgusting proposal to the frightened child. He quietly whispers to the child, "I will wash you now." Suzunen instantly intervened and firmly demanded that he leave the child alone. Otto, full of rage, barked at her, "Shut up," and retorted, "Who are you to judge me?" He coldly declared that in this new world only those who adapt will survive, mockingly laughing at her constant tears. Suzunen sharply cuts in. He is the one living in dreams and must come down to earth, while the other students meanwhile take her side. An authoritative voice cuts through the noise like a blade and sternly asks, "What is going on here?" Students raised their eyes up to the majestic stairs. Suddenly a loud bell rang through the hall, catching everyone by surprise. Courtiers burst in, marching authoritatively, and demanded to know where the heroes were. They announced shocking news: giants and demons are advancing, and the heroes must immediately prepare for battle. The voice of command rolled out: "Unite with the heroes from the east and repel the invasion." Fear like a wave rolled through the summoned students who believed their sole purpose was to fight the distant lord of demons. The instructor turns to Suzunen and with tension in his voice asks, "What will you do?" Mickey steps forward with fire in her eyes and resolutely promises, "I will protect my loved one." Susan firmly told her, "Don't speak as if you are ready to die." Horror grips her. She understands, if even a few healers among them fall, all will perish, while some guys boast about their training. One of the fighters turns to her and asks her to heal him if he is wounded in the upcoming battle. She nods, for in her heart she knows, healing is the only role that only she can perform. Gathering determination within herself, she decides not to cry anymore. They will all survive this together. There's no time for tears anymore. An alarming message was brought to the palace. Demons and giants are approaching from the eastern sea. Although knights and heroes fought desperately, they were simply overwhelmed by the enemy's numerical superiority, so he will have to turn to the alliance of the four tribes for help. The battlefield is a terrible sight of chaos and destruction. Scorched earth is strewn with bodies. Some other conscript students got stuck in completely hopeless situations. When one of their own is wounded, panic grabs them. They understand that they are about to be destroyed. Kyujo, the leader of the students, tries to restore order and does not even allow the thought of surrender for him. That would mean instant death. He pulls out a pouch with pills that strengthen the body. They were given to him by the chief priest. Others immediately rush to demand the pills, but Kyujo warns after 10 hours they will paralyze whoever takes them. United by this new power, they decide to use the pills to destroy the enemy troops. When the medicine took effect, they were instantly overwhelmed by a wave of energy. With new confidence in their hearts, the students rushed into battle. When everyone was ready to charge into battle, one of them said firmly, "No." Kyujo reveals his true intention. They are not fighting, they are running away because they feel no loyalty to their captors. One student sharply asked why he was handing out pills if the plan was to retreat, and another silently agreed he really had a valid argument. Suddenly one of their classmates explodes. He goes into a frenzy, and his eyes blaze with rage. He realizes the terrible truth. The pills cause savage rage and push them to fight until they fall from exhaustion. He exposes Kyujo's betrayal. He used them as bait to cover his escape. The berserker screams, calls others to run. He holds the line, though his body is already succumbing to the pill's effect. The rest of the students rush into the dense forest. Two girls follow the tracks, and one of them clenches her fists and swears Kyujo will pay for his betrayal. She resolutely refuses to abandon her friend and says, "I'd rather die than leave him." Her companion agrees and declares firmly, she fights not for this kingdom but to protect her friends. Their determination became unshakable. They stand shoulder to shoulder. They come out onto a wide clearing, completely exposed and in great danger. Suddenly, a towering giantess emerges before them. The giantess spoke, and her words confirmed. For her kind, she was small. The girl froze in amazement. She stands over the corpse of one of their fallen classmates, frozen and silent. The giant mocks them and challenges the swordswoman. Try to defeat her. She gladly accepts. The girl rushes at dazzling speed, like lightning, and strikes powerfully at the colossal enemy. Her blade struck, but the giant was not harmed at all by the attack. The sorceress begins to whisper a spell, her voice trembling, tensely preparing a supportive enchantment. She has no offensive powers. She vows to keep her friend close and is instantly ready to heal her. The giant is bored by this tactic. It knows that after every strike its opponent immediately heals. Suddenly changing target, the giant charges at the healer and her friend throws himself between them, intercepting the attack. The girl, without hesitation, took the full blow aimed at her comrade. She was thrown back, but she grits her teeth. She will no longer allow herself to be outwitted. Severely wounded, she lies on the ground and the giant looms over her. The wizard shouts loudly to her, "Stop," while the giant raises its hand, preparing to deliver a deadly blow. Giant roared, "This is the end." Fist descends, she is about to crush the lying student. The elder explains how Crafton secretly invades the human country, sending giants and demons. Beast people, tense and anxious, wondered where the summoned heroes had gone, and the elves, barely audibly, asked the protagonist where he was heading. He announces that he is setting out for the land of humans. He swears to return as soon as Conan recovers, while his comrades stand stunned by this sudden departure. Before he could leave, a huge presence suddenly bursts out from the nearby sanctuary. A group of figures in robes appears. Their power is palpable. The main character froze. Their sudden appearance shocked him. He recognizes their leader and, surprised, asks, "What is he doing here?" The elven queen looked at him and understood. Before her stood an ancient type of human. Elder Thames falls to his knees and begs for help. Giants have attacked his village. The elven queen snorts mockingly and with obvious derision refuses to believe his plea for cooperation. She sharply throws accusations in his face, says that he himself orchestrated the Crafton attack, giving it the divine weapon Mjolnir. She demands apologies for his betrayal, and each of her words hits painfully, reminding him of his past aggression. Themis apologizes and says he never expected Crafton to use this weapon so cruelly. The main hero watched. He became uneasy at how easily everyone was forgiven. The queen tears away the veil of truth. Themis once tried to exterminate her entire tribe to establish human dominance. Suddenly, one of the senior guards burst out with a loud warning scream. Knights push everyone aside, clearing the way. Themis stood opposite the main hero and sharply said, "I still cannot let you go home." The elder warns him, "Do not be cruel," and in response calls him senile. Dark memory emerges in the hero. He swears he never forgot how he was rejected. He rushed forward like lightning, blurred by movement, demanding to know if the elder remembers him now. He releases a powerful stream of earth magic. A sinister smile twisted his lips as he challenged the elder, "Avenge yourself." He sincerely admits his previous enemy Crafton was both stronger and faster than him. He tried it in vain, nothing changed. He still killed him without hesitation. Our hero traps the elder in a net of dark magic, but this is only the beginning. As soon as the old man screamed, he loudly confessed that he had trained only for this moment of revenge. Themis, in despair, offers wealth, power, and even an entire country, but receives a cold refusal. The main hero reminds him his revenge is absolute. He asks with a bitter smile, did the elder really believe he could avoid punishment for his crimes? He swears to inflict the same unbearable torment that he himself once had to endure. A moment more and he will strike, but suddenly someone's hand gently stops his blade. It is Conan. She insists that he calm down and use this chance for interrogation. The elf queen looms over the captured elder and sharply asks about the man's last plan. He reveals a shocking truth. Their goal is complete domination, and for this they must destroy the powerful tribe of phantoms. The main hero feels a bitter contradiction. The summoned people do not have the light magic needed for such a feat. The elder laughed and said that there is still one way to achieve their goal. Before he could tell more, his laughter suddenly stopped. He instantly died. Mysterious flame instantly burned his body. It turns out the killer was a skeletal mage named Bees. He instantly disappears underground. The hero hissed curses, raged over the escape, and over the fact that it is still unclear who the elder was working for. Heinen apologized for interfering but instantly calmed her. It is not her fault. Plans have changed, and he, a little nervous, looks back at his comrades and asks if they will go with him. Somewhere else, two of the other summoned heroes burn with determination to save someone who is extremely dear to them. A figure resembling the Pope bowed low and apologized to the elven queen and her retinue. The lick confirms their target rushed so wildly that we could not track him. Most likely, he retreated to his home. The leader of the beast folk solemnly vows to protect the elven village and evacuate the people on its lands, although she herself does not yet fully understand what is happening. The elven queen simply says thank you. When the group decided that the next route was too long, the main character decisively pulls out his special item and without hesitation decides to use it. He summons a flying carpet, a true magical item from his world, and his companions froze in amazement. They soar high in the sky, above the treacherous terrain below. From their height, they see a huge battlefield boiling below. Mid the chaos emerges a wild, grotesque man like a true monster. The main character froze. Not all heroes are visible, and the statuses of these new fighters are not readable at all. On the ground, every creature instantly senses their presence in the sky. It instantly shoots upward, so terrifyingly fast that the main character freezes in fear. Its leap is so incredibly powerful that it creates a giant shockwave. The mighty warrior roared at the top of his lungs, "This is the end." A young woman named Mickey cries out of despair, but suddenly a familiar smell catches her attention. The warrior holding her captive also catches the scent on a piece of cloth. He sharply turns to her prisoner and demands abruptly, "Who are you?" Suddenly the main hero appears between them with a weapon in hand ready. Calmly and confidently he orders the warrior to release the girl and leave the battlefield. The huge woman hesitates, trying to tend to one of her wounded. Subordinates are confused. They cannot understand why she is so unwilling to attack one person. They demand to know why their entire army must retreat. In her eyes the stunning power of the main hero, and she knows he can destroy them all in an instant. She is a mother. She will not let her sons be killed. The main hero rushed to Mickey. Her former comrades watch and breathe a sigh of relief. She has recovered. He gently soothes her, whispering about his promise they will definitely meet again. Overwhelmed with emotions, she tightly pressed him to herself. He apologizes. She was powerless and could only watch as he suffered then. He calms her, saying quietly that she was the only one who ever protected him. His companion asks if she needs healing, but he stubbornly refuses. He explains she simply fainted from immense relief. The main character sharply turned his gaze to the enemy commander and sharply asked, "Where is Temis?" Suddenly, a terrifying presence descended over the battlefield. In a dark cave appears a new, powerful demon. He is born from purest malice. It declares the end of the demon's torment, which fed on their shared hatred. The new entity loudly shouts the names of its targets and swears revenge. It pours its dark power onto the battlefield. Suddenly, the great warrior woman and her sons find themselves in a storm of ominous energy. The new demon commands them to become his hands and feet and fight for his cause. The demon is only beginning his rampage. A shadowy tentacle instantly pierces one of the warriors. The main hero and his companions can only watch as the demons begin to wildly attack each other. A dark shadowy creature suddenly lunged, and its fangs bit into the hero's shoulder. The man shouted, and the observer immediately understood. With the death of Kitabapas, a new ancient-type demon was born. A hooded figure watched the chaos unfold and knew that the demons had finally broken free from the giant's control. He thoughtfully thinks this event will change the course of the war. Below, the rest of the heroes froze when they saw the demons had risen, turning their fury against their former masters and driving the giants into a full retreat. Coming to their senses after the sudden turn of events, they asked themselves one question: has the war they fought so desperately really ended? Free from orders, they stand stunned, looking at each other and not knowing what to do next. For now they can do anything. The leader smiled slyly, and with that smile confirmed, now they are free. One of the men dreams of returning home as a celebrated hero and is already imagining a luxurious life. He grimaced, recalling the slave woman he left behind, and impatiently awaits the moment he will see her again. Meanwhile, a demi-human resembling a rabbit watches over a young girl and cannot calm down. Her naivety in this dangerous land is frightening. She sighs deeply, thinking about how much longer she will have to care for the girl and whether their master will ever return at all. Meanwhile, Mickey unconscious lies on the ground. Her friend Susan froze on the stairs in shock. Before her eyes suddenly flashed a terrible vision of Mickey's mutilated body. Susan pulls her out of sleep and frantically checks, is she alive and intact? With relief in her chest, she tightly embraces Mickey, and Mickey explains that someone named Hannah healed her body. A woman with cat ears quietly introduces herself and gently explains that she only gave healing food that was passed to her by the master. Another woman, Conan, introduced herself, and the two girls sincerely thanked them for their help. They froze in shock when they learned that both Hannah and Conan are slaves. Hannah says that their master saved her when she was mistakenly accused and was about to be sold into slavery. Now they stood before a huge mansion, stunned by the news that the war had ended because of a demon uprising. The elf Auntie barely managed to introduce herself when the conversation instantly broke off. Sudzanen's friend, shocked, learned that Sukru had killed her boyfriend. The whole group froze at the moment when Sudzanen was asked if Tsukuru was her boyfriend. As soon as she waved her hand, calling him a childhood friend, the main hero himself returned. The beast girl with a huge boar on her shoulders burst in and loudly announced her arrival. The others instantly recognized her. It was Ayumi. Everyone was overwhelmed with incredible confusion. After all, Ayumi was considered dead, and the group was stunned to notice her striking resemblance to Sanya Tich. Inside, the hero's heart tightens. He cannot believe his own eyes. Sanya is an exact copy of his sister Ayumi. He explains that Ayumi is not his biological sister, but the daughter of the family that took him in after his parents' death. 2 years ago, a car accident tore her entire family from her life. That is why he flinched so much. Upon meeting Sanya, he initially took her for Ayumi. Sanya explains that her appearance is just a common trait of her beastfolk tribe. She briefly touches on her past and quietly says that she met their master only after he freed her and Hannah from imprisonment. Nta became interested. A thought flashed through her mind that there must be some connection between Sanya and Ayumi. The main hero clenches his fist. He is determined to get to the truth, but for that he will have to do a favor for a person named Harem. Suddenly, a towering bony figure rises behind them, and the girls freeze in horror. The entity asks if they found that old man, and the main hero simply replies, yes. A calm girl with cat ears in a dark dress stands next to the skeletal mage. She smiles kindly at the group and introduces herself Alterius. Suddenly, a woman with fox ears appears before them. She loudly calls Ali. She smiles warmly, as if about to explain why she appeared so suddenly. Ali confesses she just passed through the transfer gate. The first person she noticed was the main hero, and she is filled with joy because everyone is safe. She explains the entire estate is her base, built thanks to the ability equivalent exchange. The main heroine sharply gets to the point and demands to know why she is really here. Ali admits that her father tried to force her into an arranged marriage. Smiling, she says she ran away after telling him, I will marry only the strongest in the world. The group is gathering tension on their faces, and they are discussing how the situation in their world is rapidly deteriorating. Ali shifts her gaze to the main character. She seems to sense that he is involved in what is happening in the world right now. It was announced the non-humans must head to human lands, and Algria is already taking refugees. Ali says that direct intervention would look like a show of force and would ruin the peaceful relations of their kingdom with the neighbors. Finally, she removes her mask. Her true intention is to help the main character take revenge on the king who betrayed him. By helping him, she will be able to undermine the power of humanity and simultaneously achieve both of their goals. He, barely hiding the anxiety in his voice, asks how she plans to handle such a huge task. Her planet is treacherous. It wants to break them from within, using his ability to summon spirits to create a double doppelganger, a legendary monster that can steal a person's very essence and completely replace them. The plan is to replace the leaders of each country and step-by-step tear apart the network of his allies until the king is left completely alone. The whole scheme relies solely on his strength, and when Ali asks if he is ready to act, he responds instantly, no doubt at all. The other girls react, feeling the full seriousness of the situation. When the monster appeared, one of them screamed in fear, and another asks if everyone is already getting ready to set off. The main character confirms the destination and heads to human territory, right into the thick of the battle. The girl who screamed froze in fear. She whispers that after that injury, she will no longer be able to fight again. Friends calm her down and advise her instead to seek protection with the knights in Albray. They turned to Suzanen and shouted passionately, join the fight, enough standing aside. Even if she cannot fight on the front lines, her holy magic, like a gift of a true saint, would become an invaluable support for the team. The main character asked if she was really sure, warning her about the huge danger that awaited them. Filled with determination, Suzanen vows to do everything in her power. She stands tensely, ready to face the impending conflict. Another girl is gripped by panic and shouts that she understands what is happening. Suddenly, a summoned powerful monster appeared before them. Some girls are obviously traumatized by what they have seen. Later, Ellie addressed Suzanen, if you really want to join us, first prove that you can defend yourself. He releases a powerful blast of sound. Another fighter unleashes a barrage of holy spears. Their strikes merged into a loud explosion and stunned the cadets, who had no idea that this was a combat test. Suddenly, their eyes were flooded with system messages, all reporting that they had leveled up. Summoning the spirits, the main hero tears a powerful Lord Doppelganger from the shadows. He gives the new entity a name, Israel. He remembers the contempt of those who summoned him, and it fuels his thirst for revenge. He has one ruthless goal: to conquer the countries where people consider themselves superior, leaving them not a shred of mercy. Disabling the teleportation gates, he decided to capture their countries one by one. The plan is going smoothly. A brilliant strategist is nearby, and very soon this will cruelly disappoint an old enemy. Bony subordinate reports survivors from the Suzuno group have been found. Standing in the middle of the captured city, he shouts loudly, it will become a new base for the heroes. The other summoned ones collectively turned against him, resolutely refusing to be his pawns. He feels their burning anger but cannot find any justification for their reckless actions. He orders his subordinate, for now do not touch them, continue the investigation and keep this secret from others. Somewhere else, the guest they're caring for asks how Suzuno is feeling. His comrades were completely exhausted after the grueling training by the sea. Suzuno and Alterius successfully reached the goal. Everyone saw their power. The main hero appears before them and sincerely acknowledges their achievement. When they ask what's next, he simply replies, it's time to eat. Suzuno is impressed. The taste of sushi from her native world enchants her and even awakens a new skill in her. The others watch frozen with amazement as he serves the banquet. He watches them enjoy the food. This taste washes over him with a wave of nostalgia, and he involuntarily thinks about returning home. But the oppressive reality caught up with him. He had to erase them from the face of the earth, knowing that they would never return. He hovers over the desolate icy wasteland, lost in thought. Suddenly, a fierce attack of dark energy bursts from beneath his feet, aiming straight at him. He is like a rock, calm, with a gaze sharp as a blade, fully focused while his subordinate reacts to the ambush. Somewhere far away, his companions feel the disturbance and, filled with anxiety, call his name. A sinister presence loomed. His bony ally loudly shouts a fearful warning, something is happening with Biz. Poisonous fog over the desolate land grows stronger and stronger. The group hovers on a flying carpet over the cursed waters. In the distance, their goal finally emerges, a fortress in the lands of death, destroyed during Ragnarok. The hero suddenly felt his target nearby, and this confirmed he was exactly where he needed to be. From the eerie mist, a horde of ghostly creatures suddenly surged upon them. One of his companions suddenly jumped forward and shouted that she would handle the ghosts herself. But even holy charms are powerless against ghosts. It is impossible to kill what is already dead. At least the magic created a barrier and for a moment held back the creature's advance. This is where the trail ended. He lost the one he was pursuing. Ahead of them emerges a strange stone monument, which one of the comrades takes for a treasure map. The protagonist restrained her. He recognized the language written on it, Japanese from his native world. The whole group looks confused. This discovery seems impossible. They believe that this message must have been left by someone else, the one who was summoned from Japan. Throwing the mystery behind them, they decide to continue the search. Suddenly, a colossal three-headed guardian beast rises before them and blocks their path. The terrible Cerberus looked down at the company, a greeting they definitely did not expect. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the beast lunges forward to attack. In fact, it decisively declares that it will destroy any threat to its master. The guardian opens its jaws and a powerful stream of destructive energy bursts forth. Hannah steps forward, ready to intercept the blow herself. She rushes straight at the three-headed monster, stunning it. With incredible speed, she delivers a powerful strike to one of its heads. She mercilessly hits that mutt with another devastating blow. She raised her head and proudly proclaimed, I am a she-wolf, the supreme predator. Suddenly the fight ended and the comrades, shining with admiration, praised her for the lightning victory. From the dissipating smoke emerges Antia like night in the form of a skeleton, and it is immediately clear that she is corrupted. The companions mistakenly called Bez, and at that moment the main hero sensed danger. Antia screams, a dark force consumes her, and her figure disintegrates, turning into a sinister swarm. The swarm attacked, and the hero, without hesitation, rushed to defend his team. Managed counterforms begged her master to leave, and at the same time quietly prepared to attack him. Another ally suggests restraining Antui and pushes the hero to move forward. And suddenly the elven priestess realizes she knows who is behind this curse. Feeling the true enemy ahead, he rushed forward, leaving the fight to his comrades. Recognizing that ominous presence in the black fog, he felt his heart tighten. He feared that another comrade had fallen. And suddenly two shadowy figures emerge from the fog, like walls trying to block his path. He cuts them down without a moment's hesitation. His focus is unwavering. Finally, he reached the source. Before him stands another former comrade, but now he is only a puppet. He clenches his will into a fist and vows to cut down the creature controlling his friend. He froze before the massive, lavishly decorated doors, the very source of evil. From the shadows emerges a mighty, horned demon lord. The entity intently gazes at the lone mortal who has managed to break into his throne room. From the place where the queen stood, a deafening sound explosion burst forth. An elf with a gloomy voice says, "The phantom attackers are endless," and the skeletal leader quietly and sadly admits it is too hard to hold back against a friend. The young girl looks on, heavy anxiety in her eyes. One of the phantoms spoke to her master. The hero felt an incredible power bursting from that creature and vowed to overthrow it. In the status window, suddenly his opponent appears, an ancient ghost, a powerful high-level creature with a terrible ability to nullify any physical attack. The ghost mockingly laughs off the idea that a human can defeat him, but the protagonist insists that his familiar black mist will be enough. The ancient ghost proudly declares that he only returned the kidnapped subordinate, but the protagonist completely rejects this accusation. Ignoring the voice of reason, he stormed forward. His intelligent weapon quietly begs him to calm down, and the ancient ghost notes with interest what a rare and strange weapon it is. The spirit taunts him, but the black fog coldly repels the attempt to scare him. The hero froze at the incredible speed of the enemy, but he stubbornly insists he is still faster. The blade passes through the ghost's body as if through smoke and causes no harm. Physical strikes simply do not work. The ghost taunts him use the cleansing skill, but the black fog howls that its master does not hear it. The weapon, irritated, growls at its master for his recklessness. Tsukuru whispered to the sword, "Stay behind," resolutely deciding to defeat the enemy alone. The ancient ghost looks at the weapon with a mocking smile and calls it a decorative toy, unfit for real combat. Without flinching, Tsukuru releases the powerful Conqueror's slash. The attack hit the phantom and wounded it. It froze in shock. The spirit smiled defiantly and disregarded the minor wound, brushing it off as if it were trash. Tsukuru barely dodges the furious barrage of shadow blades. Ghostly ethereal limbs lunged forward to catch him. He was grabbed and brutally slammed against the debris. He barely manages to parry the next strike. Two warriors merge into a blurred whirl of movement as their attacks collide. Tsukuru feels the ghost's hand that brings disease is a serious threat, and he cannot allow it to touch him. He knows one strike is enough, and he immediately loses. Realizing this, he fervently vows to win without taking a single hit. Fighters locked eyes, their attention was fully focused. An explosion of destructive force bursts from their duel. Destructive shockwave sucks in Tsukuru. He grits his teeth and realizes the full seriousness of his situation. He fights with his last strength to withstand the relentless force. When the ghost attacks again, Tsukuru loudly shouts the name of his weapon, Black Mist. The attack was deflected. He sharply slid back across the broken floor. Glancing at the blade, he exhales with relief. It is intact. He apologizes for his carelessness and sincerely promises to be more careful. The sword seemed to respond with a quiet humming. The eyes of the ancient ghost narrowed. He recognized the soul of an intelligent weapon. In the blade, it recognizes the person who once changed form and became a sword. Tsukuru froze silently, stunned by this revelation. The ghost coldly confirmed Black Mist was once a human and ordered her to change form. Around the blade and its owner, a dark force begins to swirl. Skeleton Mage feels the oppressive hopelessness of his situation. Allies ask him for a plan, their faces full of anxiety. Suddenly, monsters burst from the shadows and rushed at them. They had to defend themselves. Suddenly, a hail of burning projectiles exploded among them. Suddenly, one of the female warriors found herself in the very eye of a furious storm of summoned weapons. The elf strategists suddenly realized that their enemy uses the summoning of the dead and thereby makes their opponents immortal. The enslaved skeleton burns the truth, and to break free, they will have to either kill the one who controls them or kill him himself. He begs them to find his master because as soon as his death is proclaimed, the summoned spirits will fall silent. The girl of the king of beasts resolutely refuses to harm the one who saved her. The elf woman steps forward, her decision may. Having done this, she coldly brushed him off and disdainfully called him simply a death spirit. With one instant movement, she shatters his body into small fragments. The others look at her in horror. They cannot believe her ruthless actions. She calmly but firmly explains, the death spirit does not die if you simply destroy its body. While the undead horde does not retreat, the priestess prepares to invoke holy magic to seal the spirit. The team grits their teeth. They are ready to repel the endless wave of monsters. The demonic army, reinforced by a sky swarming with bats, looks at them with a challenge. The priestess exclaims that now, without any restrictions, she will unleash her magic across the entire district. She uttered a high-level spell and summoned two powerful holy spirits, the Kreswev Academy, obsessed with points, and the correctional school Iron Gates, which values character above all. A bright sacred flash of light seems to devour the entire battlefield. Creatures of darkness recoil and emit piercing cries of pain. Amid the chaos, Sonya suddenly froze. Her friends suddenly shouted a warning. A huge beast rushes forward, but Conan bravely throws himself in front of Sonya, becoming her living shield. Kainen takes the full devastating blow of the attack. Sanya froze in shock looking at the three-headed dog that wounded her comrade. The wound was serious, clear evidence of her sacrifice. Suddenly, an invisible, insanely powerful force fiercely throws the huge beast back. Yanning quietly apologizes her magic failed, but her friend gently soothes her. Sanya seems to regain consciousness but does not understand at all what just happened, and her companions only look at her strange behavior in surprise. In the distance, they see the real enemy, impaled on numerous spears. This is the work of their leader. The whole group froze, stunned by the sudden intervention. The main hero sat amid the bloody massacre, his face gloomy. His slimy companion strains its senses to find its master. It finds him near the ruined arch, guarded by a mighty lick. Slime anxiously calls its master. The rest of the party turns. Their leader is in mortal danger. He was grabbed by a monster and entangled in its nets. Rushing through the bloody massacre, his comrades spot the target ahead. They find their master. A grotesque mass of darkness devours his hand. Hanan sharply shouts his name, tense and ready to intervene instantly. Apologizing in advance for the pain, she clenches her fists and prepares to attack. But the hero needs no help. He unleashes destructive magic himself and destroys the parasitic creature. From afar, the enemy mockingly laughs, jeering, "Can he fight without a hand?" But his hand quickly regrows. Everyone freezes in shock, and he calmly says, "Don't worry." In the blink of an eye, he closed the distance and rushed at the enemy. But the fiery spear struck in vain. No harm. The demon is invulnerable to both physical and magical attacks. Now he finally understands why the allies warned. This enemy cannot be defeated. Other members of his team hold back, constantly insisting that their physical attacks are useless. When his main means of combat failed, the hero rushes to find another way out. Suddenly he catches a decisive detail in his thoughts. Light magic is the most powerful weapon against the ghost tribe. Hanan, filled with new determination, solemnly swears. From now on she will not allow anyone dear to her to perish in her hands. Suddenly appears a blade of pure light. She stands ready for battle. Her new weapon gleams. Her resolve is unshakable, like a rock amid the storm. On the front line, she stands beside him, ready for the final clash. The ancient demon looks at them, and he is indifferent. Suddenly, it notices the appearance of this dazzling light. Side by side, they prepare to unleash all their combined power. The demon declares loudly and triumphantly, "My struggle is over." A devastating explosion of energy burst from Kanan's sword. The enemy's body melted into vapor, but the hero knew this was not the end and shouted a warning to his comrades: "It will resurrect." He froze on alert, ready to strike at the very moment the creature regained its form. He anxiously scans the Hall of Ruins, holding his breath, waiting for his enemy to appear again. BZ confirms their worst fears. The enemy merged with the darkness and fled. Another ally has arrived. She confirmed that she is unharmed and glad to see them safe. Suddenly, Kanan collapses to the ground, and a storm of system messages explodes around. She assures them that she is simply exhausted. Light magic has taken too much of her strength. But suddenly, a new message stunned her. She instantly fell silent. She studied cosmic magic. The whole group froze in amazement. They had never seen such mastery of the skill before. The main hero instantly realizes the colossal strategic value of this ability. From the shadows, the enemy who fled silently watches them. It stands stunned, pondering the impossible appearance of the light mage. Then it shifted its gaze to another member of the company. As if an ancient creature recognized the girl, a hint of a hidden connection flashed between them for a moment. Later, the group sits down together for lunch and regains strength again. The hero carefully examines the remains of another of his enemies, a trembling mass of black fog. He explains this is what happened to the dark shaman they fought earlier. Now he will have to decide what to do with the fallen creature that is still breathing. Having fled into the deserted wilderness, the hero asks himself, "What will I do next?" His partner confirms their new destination is already determined. They finally arrive at the capital of the Beastfolk Kingdom, to a huge camp now hosting refugees from human lands. He resolutely announces their goal: to find an ancient dwarf named Dyke. Showing a corrupted sword, he, full of hope, asks if the dwarven smithing can repair it. The dwarf agrees to examine the mysterious metal at night, but sternly warns him, "Do not expect a miracle." The conversation suddenly shifts to the refugee crisis. Trade with the human lands has stopped, and supplies are so scarce that it is already dangerous. To help, the main hero decides to open a free kitchen to feed people who have lost their homes. He and his comrades immediately rush to distribute hot food to desperate refugees. The entire team falls silent and watches as the hungry finally receive real food. He is about to ask Seidel to distribute food across all countries, but a young girl looking at him notes that he himself has eaten nothing. Just the offer of stew, and immediately a dark, painful memory surfaces. He recalls how Ayumu was supposed to eat stew, but it spoiled before the first spoonful. Having received a report from his skeletal subordinate, he realized with horror, giants and demons retreated, but Israfil took important persons from 13 countries captive. They say the enemy leader was locked inside a magnificent temple in the Raid Crude Empire. The temple is sealed by an ancient barrier that grimly commands to kill any representatives of the old breeds who appear. He notices that Ellie's plan is going smoothly, but Kanan's magic barely withstands the enormous strain. Heinen approached, her voice trembling. She is worried about the Demon Lord and the summoning of heroes itself. She reveals the appearance of the Demon Lord was staged pure lies so that people would have a reason to summon heroes and rule the world. He presses her, demands more details, and sharply asks why she believes that particular person is the Demon Lord. She completely rejects this possibility. She was shaken by a shocking truth. Thames is one of the warriors who destroyed the first Demon Lord. 4,000 years ago, people called heroes to stop the Demon Lord in Ketubal Pass in the whirl of the gods' battle. Another companion firmly states that demons will never be able to summon another Demon Lord because she personally burned their summoning sites. The main hero decisively demands proof that there is no other scheme here. Antiaya is worried, but the others do not even doubt their assessment. Confirmed, the technique of summoning the Lord of Demons is lost. The flame of Kobaru has scorched their territory. The observer, completely confused, watched how Kanan possesses the magic of light, a skill supposedly available only to heroes. He made only one conclusion: her power is a direct consequence of Themis. A message suddenly flashed in the system window. The seal of Themis's blessing has been removed. An ordinary skill has just been transformed into a power capable of creating a god. Gnome returns and brings a verdict for the sword. He says it cannot be fixed. The blade is like a corpse beyond their technologies, and only an ancient tribe of ghosts could lift its curse. Having no other choice, Themis activates his unique skill, Feast of the Gods. Suddenly, the main hero is granted a new individual skill, the ability to change form. He immediately uses it, commands the black mist of the sword to return to its original form, knowing that he will have to suffer for it. He strains in thought, preparing a counterattack. Bright light flashed, and he recalled with horror the harsh price of this skill, losing one of his senses for a whole day. Stunning force pierces him, throwing him into unbearable shock. Bubbles emerge around him, and consciousness slowly returns. He sinks into the abyss, his mind racing relentlessly, trying to remember what happened. The last thing he remembered was how he desperately tried to use the banquet of the gods to restore the black mist. Suddenly, he finds himself sitting on a path in the middle of a strange forest bathed in warm sunlight. He looks at his hands and suddenly shudders, realizing they are not his own. He has not yet managed to comprehend this when several figures appear, and one of them calls him Sensei, asking for advice. To his surprise, his own mouth seemed to move and agree without any conscious thought. The words escaped from his lips on their own, even though he did not want them to. He screams inside himself, not understanding what is happening, while the group only watches. Now he is trapped, forced to look through another's body at a foreign land. His father taught him to wield a sword, a man who lived every breath in the world of knights. Following in his father's footsteps, still young, he became an instructor and began training the best in the kingdom. But as soon as his students grew up and went on missions, they started disappearing one by one. Soon his students were framed for treason, and the entire burden of responsibility fell on his shoulders. On paper, it was a resignation under the cover of a training trip, in reality exile. He knew they would never betray the kingdom, but he tormented himself with reproaches. It seemed to him that the swordsmanship skills he taught them were simply too weak. He carried a crushing guilt, certain that his inability had led them to their graves. Now he has hit a ceiling. He cannot rise above the 100th level. He suffers, fights against this obstacle, and constantly asks himself what key element is he missing. He deliberately broke away into a deserted wasteland to face the terrifying monster face to face. Wounded and exhausted, he prepares for the end and accepts this place as worthy to die here. Suddenly, a storm of shadow spikes rushes straight at him. The attack hits the target. He is severely wounded and coughing up blood. From the darkness emerges a mighty creature from the undead tribe. The creature offers him power and life, but only if he agrees to become its familiar. It demands that he swear eternal loyalty and bow before it as before his lord. Despite mortal wounds, he stands his ground and, defying, refuses. He loudly swears his soul and sword are devoted to the fatherland, and he will not allow anyone to desecrate them. The Lord of the Undead laughed. His words in uniform sounded strangely familiar. It torments him with a vision, as if asking, were those his lost disciples? The monster smiled as if praising a dish and said that their pure souls were extraordinarily tasty, then coldly added that it had indeed eaten them. Screaming with pure rage, he suddenly realizes he stands face to face with his disciple's killer. Under incredible force, the form of the Lord of the Undead began to transform and writhe. He mockingly laughs at his disobedience and questions his chances. The creature disdainfully waved it off. He is just a simple human child who cannot oppose her. Suddenly, another voice sounded. Is this some kind of drop item again? The main character froze as if reborn and points forward with icy, unwavering determination. Consciousness slowly emerges from that foggy void. The main character wakes up in bed, and what just happened now seems like a distant dream. He whispers to himself, was it all just a nightmare? When his vision clears, he realizes the punishment from the banquet of the gods ended after a whole day. He turned his head and, stunned and gripped by horror, suddenly saw a young woman in bed next to him. Panic grips her and she screams as she realizes he can see again. He asks why she is here, and she quietly replies that she did not think he would recover so quickly. A sudden rumble outside draws his attention, and Sanya was thrown to the ground during training. The beast girl, genuinely irritated, slammed her fist on the ground. He calmly tells her that there is still a long way ahead. Suddenly, a man in a hood appears in the shadows and addresses the main hero as his kindred spirit. In the status window, like an irrefutable verdict, the inscription lit up. He is Black Mist, the blade of the god of war, level 600. Main hero was stunned and fell silent. From another room, the girl also froze in shock upon hearing the legendary name. He notices when a weapon turns into a person, it is almost always a beautiful woman, and he remains just himself. Suddenly, the main hero realized, before him is his sword, returned to its original human form, and the dream turned out to be a vision of his blade's past. Black Mist nods, confirming this, and explains that the skill allows them to share memories and thoughts. He admits that after eons as a sword, his human memories have faded, but the past he saw of Shamanile simply threw him off balance. The hero waved it off, savoring victory and feeling the looming threat of an ancient enemy's plan. Black Mist grimly declared that his training starts right now and warned he must become much stronger to take revenge. Meanwhile, in a luxurious mansion, a man, overwhelmed by despair, found himself trapped. He calls his subordinate, his voice echoes through the empty corridors, scattering into the depths of silence. He sits at his desk in panic, realizing he cannot contact other countries, and none of his people are returning. His heart tightens for the missing subordinates, but he knows, abandoning the barrier's defense is to condemn himself to death. The man angrily curses Tsukuru, certain that all his misfortunes began the moment he met that boy. He is increasingly gnawed by anxiety over the strange appearance of Shamanile and the new breed of ancient demons ravaging his domain. Without any messages and without soldiers, he feels completely helpless and cannot meet the gaze of the one to whom he must answer. Overcome with rage and despair, he struck down with all his might. Two swordsmen rushed at each other, and a fierce exchange of blows erupted. In the neighboring estate, a company hurriedly prepares dinner and watches the duel with bated breath. Blades clash so fast they dazzle, showing how honed their skill is. Sparks fly, and the relentless assault allows no moment to catch one's breath. Fighters locked weapons, and the duel stalled in a dead end. The forces are equal. The main character stood perplexed. Although his level was higher, their skills matched perfectly, as if he were fighting his own reflection. He cannot get rid of the thought, does this conscious sword from the black fog reflect his own state? The weapon reproaches him for weak technique and stubbornly demands that he focus on the fight. In the heat of intense training, a shout suddenly rang out, food is ready. The hero exclaims with delight that food is the greatest pleasure he was deprived of when he was a sword. Before them unfolded a luxurious banquet. On the table gleamed dishes, exact copies from his native world. His comrades grabbed the food with such appetite that they were already demanding seconds. He looked at the company and saw that one of them slyly dodged. He never ate his onion. The scene shifts to a war council, where it is said with indignation that that damned old man is losing control. His commanders are already starting to disobey him. Suddenly, his ally reveals his plan to officially declare the end of human rule. The Lick, with an icy smile, explains his plan to unite other races, making the Raider Empire a demonstrative example. The woman presses her lips as if holding back a storm and firmly confirms the true goal of the main character is revenge, not to ignite war between great powers. She whispered to him that the organizers of the challenge had already disappeared, only their main target remained. He simply smiled slyly, agreeing with her brief, accurate assessment of the situation. The elven queen Antier is asked to take on the task and establish peace, but the thought of it does not please her at all. She says that if the current ancient type of people dies, a new one will simply be born in its place, and she will have to clean up all this chaos herself. Like them who feel a debt to their people, she has sworn an oath to protect her own. The protagonist announces his bold plan to use Kanan's space-time magic, isolate the ancient type, and subjugate the entire human tribe. Although they admit that the word control sounds bad, they sincerely believe humanity can be led to a better future. One of his companions flared up with rage and shouted that any insult to her master is unforgivable, no matter who committed it. The Elven Queen, seeing such fervent devotion, seems to read the room. With a heavy, painful sigh, Auntie agrees to cooperate. She has no other choice if it will save her people. The Lick raised the alarm again. Other summoned heroes are already plotting, preparing to storm the raid-crewed empire themselves. They sense this could complicate everything. The heroes' actions might alert their main target. One of the women asks, are they talking about Kuju and others? And she asks, what are they doing now? A warrior bursts in and loudly announces his arrival, while another hero decisively warns his comrade to retreat. The man in glasses fights desperately with an insurmountable force. A sudden fierce explosion breaks out and he is thrown into the air. The enemy is defeated. The heroes rejoice in victory, but the man, not believing his eyes, notices that his level has sharply jumped to 170 and continues to rise. His companion excitedly recognizes this as a limit break, an ability meant only for true heroes. Reinforced by victory, the summoned heroes declared the kingdom theirs. The newly gained power has spoiled their minds. Soon Kujo cuts off the question coldly about when they will invade the next empire. They see the woman in glasses herself. She trembles, trying to convince herself that she made the right decisions. A sudden piercing scream shattered the silence and stunned the gathered students. At the door suddenly appears a girl with dark hair and everyone freezes. It is Ikenos, whom they already thought they had lost. Then she throws a chilling question, will those who died with regret ever truly find peace? Kujo laughs coldly with contempt at her dramatic return. One of the heroes stubbornly insists that their survival is thanks to his prediction, but Ikenos sharply rejects this version of events. Kujo sharply blurted out that they almost died, and only two saved them, Miki and Sukuru. He seems to agree but immediately shifts the conversation to her and accuses her of the suffering in which the kingdom's people now drown. Now everyone reproaches him, loudly asking, what right does he have to speak of justice if he hid behind others during the real battle? Behind her back emerges a giant bone ghost. Its silent figure challenges all of Kyuzi's beliefs. At that very moment, the guard loudly shouts that the hostages have been freed and are already being helped. Former hero recoiled, gripped by horror, when the ghost of death appeared before him. The figure in the cloak steps forward and the panicked student freezes. Silent, she demands his attention. He stands before them and offers three options: to die here and now, to return to his world, or to stay alive. The student is instantly overwhelmed by panic. He begs to be sent back home and desperately tries to flee from the endless war. The man in the cloak extends it to all others who want to leave. Kujo smiled slyly and said he would stay in this world where he feels freer. The main hero, without unnecessary words, says to him, do everything you can. He touched Kazuya's shoulder, and at that moment some unknown ability awakened. Instantly, Kujo and those who decided to stay lost their powers and became just ordinary 6th-level peasants. The main hero, together with his comrades, turns away and leaves the powerless heroes behind. Uzu, in despair, calls Ikenos, begging for help and offering information about a comrade in return. He says he saw a demon kidnap their friend. He tries to manipulate her, asking the saint, do you really want to abandon your savior? Kino calmly tells him, don't worry, she has other ways to find him. She stubbornly met his gaze without looking away and said directly, I am not a saint, I am just as ordinary a person as you. He asks him not to tell anyone about their conversation. Later, the main hero stands next to the priestess and quietly tells her that they have already dealt with the former heroes. He says that they interfered with his plans and apologizes for this unexpected detour. He asks himself whether his actions will bring peace to the dead and honestly admits he is driven not by concern for the deceased but by a burning thirst for revenge. The temple priestess gently assured him that he can fully count on her support in his quest. He is behind bars together with his comrades. Their weapons have been taken away, and it seems that all hopes for escape have faded. He is the only one who can still fight in a berserk state, and now he doubts whether he has enough strength to protect them alone. A sudden sound tears him from his thoughts. Raising his eyes from the pit, he saw a mighty undead looming over the bars of his cell. Meanwhile, in the city, his comrades, frozen with horror, watch as one of them suddenly just disappears, leaving only a black charred spot in his place. Meanwhile, in another corner at the War Council, tension reigns. They discuss how the conflict between the tribes of giants and demons is escalating. The main hero said in a subdued voice that negotiations with the beastmen and dwarves went successfully, albeit reluctantly. A real political storm erupted in the capital, all because of the achievements of the one called Israfil. The orator loudly, with a spark in his voice, exclaimed that 14 nations are uniting to put an end to the policy of human supremacy of the Raid Crud Empire. The crowd roars like a storm and demands justice, that the leader Thames be punished for the devastation. This entire movement is portrayed as a decisive response to the terrible tragedy caused by the war of the old regime, which was based on the idea of its own supremacy. In the royal palace, advisors with trembling voices anxiously warn the emperor, Themis is in mortal danger. Some insist that Themis is still recovering from wounds and must not be disturbed. One of the imperial ministers looks at him suspiciously and directly, head-on, asks who he is. He has not yet finished the accusation when he is mercilessly knocked down by a blow from behind. The figure on the throne said coldly, "It is a pity they had to learn the truth." The frightened guard rushes into the inner room and shouts that the cold has seized the emperor's body and replaced the royal guard. The knights at the door, like an immovable wall, assure him no one will pass them. Suddenly the messenger is killed and it becomes clear to whom the guards are truly loyal, the new ruler. Inside the old Themis, chaos rages and he desperately clutches a pouch. He begs for strength when suddenly a dark silhouette of a man appears in the doorway. The majestic doors open and the main hero stands on the threshold. His mighty comrades stand on either side. Walking through the fallen guards, he loudly announces his return. After a long and exhausting journey, he will no longer allow his goal to escape again. He advances with icy determination, swearing, "I will kill the old man right here and now." A dreadful silence hung in the great hall, and the hero instantly realized all the key people were replaced by doubles, so his true target is now unreachable. Suddenly, a vivid memory flashed in his mind about the place where it all began the day the hero was summoned. He still envisions the faces of the nobles who were present at the ritual. Since the day he stepped into this world, his dignity and heart have been mercilessly trampled underfoot again and again. Now all that torment was finally coming to an end. One of his comrades asks, "Is this really the end, the world ruled by humanity, abandoned to its fate?" Members of his team look at him with anxiety, feeling the weight of his intentions. He clearly makes it understood, he is not some righteous hero called to solve the problems of the whole world. He lived for only one purpose, revenge, and a distant explosion announced the beginning of his plan. Meanwhile, the Elven Queen decisively orders her subjects to destroy all summoning structures and erase all records. While rummaging through the archives, one of the elves suddenly flinched at a loud rumble. Throughout the city, people raise their heads and gaze into the smoke and flames swirling above the royal quarter. The destruction is colossal. The tower crumbles under the pressure of the attack. Inside a magically protected room, an old man anxiously thinks, "Where is this noise coming from?" A sudden knock on the door caught him by surprise. He jumped up. He commands a man, "Enter and tell in detail what is happening outside." The door opened, revealing a terrible undead creature. Its flesh was half rotten. The old man howled in horror when he recognized the monster standing before him. The undead lunged forward with dazzling speed, its claws gleaming ready to strike. Suddenly the man was torn to pieces. The runny nose just dissolved into the air, and the real target suddenly realizes an uninvited invader has infiltrated his territory. Panic overwhelms him. He feels his ancient barrier type should be impenetrable to all, except perhaps for another one like him. Pressing, overwhelming presence looms over him, and a voice demands what he will do next. Old Themis falls to his knees, begs and swears to faithfully carry out any order. From afar, the hero watches with a smirk as the enemy instantly loses his head over the death of just one double. There in his palm, dark energy thickens, cold and threatening. He says to the frightened old man, "This is only the beginning." Thames just looks back, a mask of pure horror frozen on his face.